Hello and welcome to this very special live race chat from the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. The last time Formula One will be racing at Zandvoort. Very sad occasion, I think, in so many ways, because Zandvoort's been such a great circuit, going right back to the 1950s, where it staged the rounds of the World Championship right at the beginning, 1952, right back then, and circuit designed by John Hugenholtz, who went on, of course, to design Suzuka as well. It's been pretty much changed in the recent times, nothing like the track it used to be, but nonetheless, it's still the Zandvoort we know and love and will continue to love even when there's no more Formula One there. So I think my biggest thing today, actually, I think it's a great shame we haven't had Formula 3 and Formula 2 on the race card this weekend, because I think F1, who own those championships, owe it to Zandvoort to have Formula 3 and Formula 2, because we had so many great F3, F2 races at Zandvoort over the years. I find it absolutely extraordinary that it's a pretty, weak race card this weekend. But anyway, that's another political, financial drama as ever. Just a reminder that this show is in aid of the Colombian earthquake victims, and those obviously we lost, the families and those who are rebuilding. And I've got a donate tab on the live chat right now in the YouTube box. Very simple. It's a YouTube Google charity, endorsed charity through the US Red Cross. And if you'd like to donate, wonderful. No pressure at all. And tell your friends that we're doing this now, because this is public. It's not for members only. This is a public one. We just wanted to do this partly because of those two things. It is the last Zandvoort, and also we want to raise that money for the Colombian earthquake appeal as well. So there we go. Right. I've said that a certain Mark Slade will be joining us, and I think he's about ready to do so. There've been a few skirmishes along the way. Let's catch up with Mark, see what's going on. Hi, Mark. You there now?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, you. Yeah. Technology defeating me this time, but we're good. Thank you.
Good. Well, as we speak, the rain has fallen. I'm not sure it's falling anymore. It has fallen on the grid. It looks to me as if that North Sea wind is blowing the clouds away, and probably we're going to be heading for a dry race. But everybody was out on the floor on the prep laps on intermediates, so that would be interesting. I guess you, like me, probably hoping it will be a wet race, right?
Yes, because I'm slightly concerned it might not be the most exciting of races without that that sort of intervention from the skies. But yeah, we'll see. I just noticed people on the grid are putting their brollies down, so it looks like it is going to be dry for the foreseeable, unfortunately. But anyway, never mind. We'll see how it gets on. And even if they start the race on a damp track, that'll mess things up a bit, so that'll make things more interesting. But there's still 25 minutes to go yet before we can get to that point. So we'll see how they.
Yeah. We'll get onto your thoughts in a second on potential strategies and what we should be looking for or not looking for. Just some questions already. Thanks so much for those joining us. Hurricane Starley, I've pinned this one already. Hi, Peter, Mark, and all. My boy and I really look forward to having you on board this race, Mark. These race chats have become a regular Sunday race tradition. So yeah, Mark's going to add a lot. I know that. Ronnie, another of our regulars who's a member as well. Hi, Peter and Mark. Quali has given McLaren, two Mercs, Piastri, Hamilton, Leclerc, and then Max. But I'm not quite convinced we learned about race pace, notwithstanding the grid. Who has the best race pace and tyre advantage? Thoughts there, Mark?
Well, I think Kimi Antonelli's probably going to have the very best race pace, because that's been a sort of hallmark of his season so far. We saw that Lando struggled in the sprint race. I must say it wasn't obvious why, because he wasn't doing anything particularly aggressive with the tyres. So maybe they just had the car set up in a slightly on the nose sort of way, and it was tough on the rear tyres. Because I think it's fair to say that Lando hasn't. Well, it depends how he drives the car normally. Sometimes he pushes very hard and that causes the tyres to drop off, and sometimes he seems to do a better job looking after them. But as I said, it wasn't obvious why they dropped off on Saturday. So unless they've done something to correct that, then we might see him struggling a bit come the race. But I think the Mercedes have a bit of performance in hand. And as I said, Kimi typically is probably the best driver on the grid for looking after tyres right now. So I think they're probably going to be the strongest. But with this race on this track, with overtaking being so tricky. Not sure how much of a problem that's going to be. Obviously, Charles was able to pass Lando in the sprint. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
The one and only pass, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Another one from Roddy. Big welcome to Mark in the live chat. Mark, it must be challenging to manage drivers' expectations prior to the start of the race for a race engineer. How do you and the team prepare the two drivers?
It very much depends on the driver, to be honest. Generally speaking, the drivers I've worked with have all been very realistic about that and their approaches. Sometimes you get a driver who suddenly he speaks to someone and he comes up with a strategy plan that you just think, wow, that's a bit out there, and sometimes they push the team in the direction they want to go in, but normally you can talk them around when you basically show them the evidence of why it's not what they're wanting to do isn't going to work, and that they come round. But yeah, generally speaking, as I say, by the time these guys are very experienced and they've got used to the situations that they encounter, and they know what's on the cards, and that they also know that basically it comes down to them giving 100% and pushing all the time. And then if something unexpected happens, that's the opportunity to try and do something to improve your position.
Next question from Petr Nikolov. I think you quite like this one, Mark. See what you think about it. You probably know I've got a bit of a merchandise store behind the channel, or associated with the channel, thanks to Bonfire doing a great job with me. A new slogan for a t-shirt, Peter suggests, is the 4 Audi rings, but inside each letter is MGUH. You like that one, do you? I thought you would.
That is very good.
Yeah,
I do.
I think we might do that one, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, it would make the situation we have so much better if we could have those back. It really would. But anyway, there we go.
Yeah, and Peter goes on to say, isn't FOM once again, Formula One again showing weakness in its position if it becomes imperative to find an energy source or bring back MGUH? Well, yeah, it is. It's a very, very difficult situation for everybody other than Formula One, who just basically will do what they want to do, as we've seen. I did say in the video yesterday, and I think Mark would agree with me, that what we're seeing at Zandvoort is a bit of a surprise. I mean, really, we're just seeing so much energy management around this track, and it's not exactly quick. And, we need to be back at 80-20. 60-40 is not enough, and we're not even at 60-40 at the moment. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, says, did anybody find the sprint race boring? I actually did, to be honest. I think we all did. Yeah, we don't like sprint races anyway, but I think we all found it boring, even though we tried to give it the benefit of the doubt. Yes, says, I almost fell asleep. Nothing happened, and they seem way too slow. Yeah, I agree. Retro Gamer says he's excited for this. So we Retro, thanks very much. Thanks for joining us. Rude Vector, rain looks like it might mix things up. Yep, let's hope so. And Ronnie says, I'm not sure if this is a compliment or not, that even Peter going through his old archives is more engaging than the sprint race. Thank you very much, Ronnie. I'll take that as a compliment of some description.
Yeah.
So Mark, assuming it's dry and it's relatively straightforward, what do you think about strategy? Max has done quite a good job, hasn't he? He's got one new set of softs, 2 new sets of mediums.
Yeah.
He just sort of basically gave up on trying to qualify well, I guess. And not that it affected it that much. And that puts him in quite a good position, I guess, in terms of having new sets. The only other team remotely near that is Ferrari with 2 new sets of softs, but they don't have any. But they've only got 1 set of mediums. I think Max has got 2, which is always handy, I guess, with safety car potential interventions right at the end or something like that.
Yeah, I think Red Bull they appreciate that their car isn't going to make them competitive. They're not going to be competitive just based on pure performance. So they've set out from the start by using the hard and then a soft in P1, and then by saving another set. So that gave them an extra medium, and then saving another set of softs through qualifying. They put themselves in a situation where they've got the maximum number of new tyres of different compounds available that they could have. And it means that if the race does become, something happens unexpected, we get safety cars, we get red flags even, they're in a position to make the most of that by having these options available. Whereas the other teams are running effectively conventional races. So they're just looking for something that puts them in a different position, hopefully a more competitive position than the cars they know are faster, which is very sensible. The only risk was that they might qualify less well, but Max, I think, has qualified as well as that car will let him, sadly. So yeah, that's what they've done, and very good job they've done that. It reminds me of back in sort of '98, going back into the past, when we were up against Michael and Ferrari with Goodyear. Ferrari used to sort of play games trying to put themselves in a different position to where we were, knowing that generally speaking, our car was quicker. So they'd save new sets of tires in qualifying and do stuff like that. So it's something that you do when you're slightly on the back foot, but it can pay dividends.
Yeah, just going back to the grid, it looks dry. I mean, we might be in a situation where somebody, I don't know, I mean, somebody's going to start on intermediates, I would have thought. But I mean, if you're any sort of racing driver, you'll start on dries at this point, I would have thought. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Mark? I mean, if it's
I-
50-50 and you've got this choice, intermediates or slicks, I'm always a slicks guy, always have been, always will be. But then, like you, I think I've been quite fortunate to work with very quick drivers who know how to drive on slicks in the semi-wet.
Yeah, the fact is that if it's anywhere near the window for dry tyres, they're going to have a significant advantage. So the teams are always looking to put slicks on at the earliest opportunity. To be honest, the problem with the intermediates is they cool down very quickly, and they're quite hard to get to work. So they're not as good an option as you might think they would be. So I'd be quite surprised if anybody starts on intermediates looking at the track and expecting that with 15 minutes plus the formation lap time, you would think it would probably dry some more. But what we don't know is whether there's any more rain heading towards the track right now. I think if someone thought there was an imminent chance of more rain, then it might become something they'd want to consider.
Yeah.
But I suspect we'll see most people on dry tyres, but I can't see all the way around the track. If there's no dry line at all, then it might be something, starting on intermediates might be worthwhile. But to be honest, normally, unless it's actually properly raining, those tyres will just give up too quickly. And you'll have to make a stop very early to go onto the dry tyres anyway. Because remember, you've got 22 cars out there, and they have a very strong drying effect on the track just by going round. So yeah, I would be very surprised if anybody starts on intermediates, to be honest.
Thanks for that, Mark. Svetlik says, Peter, why do you think, actually this is more Mark than Peter, I think, but we can both have a go at it. Why do you think McLaren chose not to alter their gear ratios when they had the chance back in May? We've talked about that. McLaren running, even though they use the Mercedes engine, the same engine as the factory team have longer gears, and quite often they're in 7th when McLaren are in 8th.
Yeah.
But around here, I don't know. You'd probably say 8th is maybe an advantage. I don't know. They're quick, aren't they?
It's going to come down to the differences in their simulation tools, basically. And I think what we've seen so far is that Mercedes have an advantage in that area. I think Mercedes, they know their engine better than McLaren know the Mercedes engine. And I think that's why Mercedes have gone in the different direction, because it's the Mercedes that's slightly odd compared to other cars. And I think McLaren haven't really got any choice but to stick to their guns, because they don't have that sophistication of simulation tool to show them the potential advantages of the ratios that Mercedes are running. The other thing is that it might be that it's a question of choice, because I think it may simply be that at some circuits one direction is better, and at other circuits the other direction is better in terms of energy recovery. And it's just come down to a decision between those two teams as to where they think their strengths and weaknesses lie. So it might be as simple as that, and there may actually not be very much in it. The thing that strikes me more than anything, though, to be honest, in that is that running, I suspect that Mercedes average revs, they're probably not that much different, because they're running the longer gears, they'll just stay in the shorter gears for longer. So it might be that, in actual fact, if you average out the sort of RPM per lap or over a course of a race, it doesn't make an awful lot of difference. And again, so as I said, I think it really comes down to the fact that it's just two ways of skinning the same cat.
Yep, I'd agree with all that. I mean, I think yes, and there's another thing which is not changing gear as much, maybe, some circuits. I mean, going into turn 7 here, good example.
Yeah,
They're not having to get 8th and then go back to 7th. I mean, they're just
yeah,
McLaren. It's possibly a bit more fussy there. I don't know. I mean, that's so banal now, that section of road, isn't it? It's effectively the straight anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
yeah.
Thomas Aclara says, I'm not a member. I'm curious for this commentary team. Well, welcome aboard. Thank you very much indeed for messaging in. Yeah, I mean, this is not for members. Normally we do it for members, and we will be from back again doing that at the Italian Grand Prix at Monza in 2 weeks' time. So if you're enjoying what we're doing now, yeah, please join us in the future. Rain says, Kelvin Magawa, and Yas agrees. Is there rain? Stroll podium. What's all that about? Who's saying Stroll podium? How would you rate the chances, the odds today of Lance Stroll? Oh, I think that's because it's talking about rain, and he usually goes quite well in the rain. Oh, okay. Do you see Stroll on the podium today, Mark?
It's a bit of a long shot, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, Aston, I know that Honda are conservative and they don't want to bring too much too soon and all this stuff, but bottom line, they're not weren't very good, were they, in the last 2
No,
days?
in fact, as given where they've qualified, I actually wonder if they'd have been better off with the previous engine, because it sounds like the problem isn't so much the peak power; it's the fact that they've had enormous trouble sorting out brake balance and integrating it into the sort of engine, the energy recovery side of things, into the brake balance, into the power delivery. Apparently, the drivability is awful. So it seems like they must have taken a step forward in some areas, but they've taken a big step back in other areas. I guess they think for the long term, this has got to be the right direction, but it sounds really painful. And in many ways, this comes down to, again, the lack of testing. In previous years, a long time ago, you'd have taken the new engine testing, sorted all these things out before you turn up at the track, but you can't do that these days. So that's why they've got such a big problem.
Yeah, or if you were the technical director, you might have spent a bit of time in Japan watching over them, bearing in mind how out of control they got when they were returning with McLaren, and it didn't work out well with McLaren. And
Yeah,
if anything was a lesson from that, it was watch over Honda. And Adrian Newey would have known that more than anyone with his experience with Honda and how well they then integrated with Red
yeah,
Bull powertrains, and yet they did
yeah,
nothing. And there was
yeah,
Adrian at Monaco wearing an Aston Martin cap last year, and
yeah,
he wasn't flying direct to Tokyo from what we can see. So that, that very remiss. I think Honda are always going to be Honda, and they're always going to do things their way. And it's up to British Formula One teams, or Formula One teams, not British necessarily, but Formula One teams and the way they think, to get on top of that and to maximize Honda rather than sort of
yeah,
wait for them to react to their own
yeah.
shortcomings.
I
That's
think,
the
just
problem.
from my own experience, what I caught the back end of McLaren's time with Honda back in 91, 92, and there were a lot of people. There were people at McLaren who had a huge amount of respect for the Honda people. I used to work directly with Tyler Alexander. He used to spend a lot of time in Japan working with the Honda guys out there with the car. I think we used to have Alan McNish driving it regularly, and at that time, I felt the relations between McLaren and Honda were pretty strong. Um, it seems that when McLaren went back to Honda in the what was it, 2014, it seemed very different in that the people who were running McLaren at that time and who are not involved in the team now, I hasten to say, were quite arrogant, in my opinion, and looked down on Honda strangely, and it was a very bad setup. Now, when they went to when Red Bull picked up Honda, I think there were people at Red Bull, presumably including Adrian, but must have been more than that, who completely understood how to deal with Honda, and they did so much a better job. But I think the important point, it wasn't just Adrian. I think there were people at Red Bull, other people at Red Bull, who basically Aston Martin need to hire those other people as well to work to get to the best relationship. Because Adrian, he's never been the one to do the nitty gritty stuff, and you might call that a weakness, fine, but it's just the way he is. He's always relied on other people to sort that side of things out, and it just seems that maybe he doesn't have that level of support at Aston Martin at the moment, sadly for them.
Yeah, well, they'll get there in the end, but how long is it all going to take? That's the thing. Connor
Well,
Clark said, sorry. Yeah.
if you remember, I said I thought it was going to take 2 to 3 years, pre-season, and I still think that it's the nature of these things. It's very, very complicated, and when you're starting from such a weak position as Aston Martin seem to be in at the moment, I can't see it turning around within the next 6 months. That's for sure.
Connor Clark says he's actually at the track and the rain has now stopped, but it will be inters, he thinks. Whereas Yas says, no, he thinks McLaren are going to go to full dry. Surely McLaren will take every opportunity to run inters, won't they? As we saw their strategy in Canada, when in doubt, throw inters at the car.
Yeah,
they must
maybe.
be delighted with this.
I mean, it just comes down to, do you think, if you start on inters, do you think you can make enough of a lead to stop and go to dry tyres?
Yeah.
It's quite possible if track conditions are appropriate for the tyre you're on and not for everyone else's, you can pull 3, 4, 5 seconds a lap. Remember what happened with Kevin and Nico in the Hasses at Montreal when they ran the full wets and everyone else was on the intermediates. It can be a massive difference in performance. But given that it hasn't rained at the track for a little while and the strength of the wind, I think it would be an extraordinarily brave choice to put those inters on the car right now. But I think they are going to be scrabbling around on the dry tyres for a little while. What it probably will do is force more people to put new softs on the car for the start, because obviously with the soft tyre you've got a bit better temperature generation and more grip. So those are better tyres for those conditions.
Just on that, Mark, I guess from an engineering logistics point of view, in this situation, when the guys went out onto the grid and the cars are pulling up at the end of the out laps, you definitely would have had a set of mediums and softs ready to put on the car, right? As well as another set of inters, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, normally you'd take so that there are a set of tyres in the car that are probably used tyres from qualifying. You'll have the set of tyres that you plan to put in the car for the race start. Be they
If
new,
I can just interrupt you there, sorry, Mark. They've just taken the covers off. Both McLarens on medium, both Mercedes on medium, Ferrari on soft, Charles on used softs, Max on soft, Lawson on used softs. So there's an interesting mix. It's nice to see that for a change. It's really good. Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you about what you choose to take onto the grid.
Yeah, you'd have the tyres you plan to start the race on, plus a set of wets in case of if you thought it was any chance of being wet, because you have to fit those quickly. Normally, you've got people with trolleys ready to run back from the garage with a different type of tyre if it's necessary, because the main limitation on the grid is the amount of power you've got available. You just can't run enough power to have more than, say, at most 3 or, well, including the tyres on the car, to run more than 4 sets of tyres. Sometimes I would not have the tyres on the car powered. I just power an extra set of tyres off the car if we thought that a decision had to be made, because the tyres that are on the car already, you're not bothered about them. You're not going to use them again.
Right. Lots of nice messages. Thank you so much. This is from Miran. Hi, Peter and Mark. Happy to be here. Exciting race in front of us. Indeed. Alessandro Duranga, another of our regulars. Hi there. Happy to join. And thank you very much. An anonymous donation of €20 for the American Red Cross for the Colombian earthquake survivors and rebuild of several cities, including Cali, which is my wife's hometown. That's why I was so involved with this. So Blue Moon says, sorry, I can't donate in this country or region yet. I have this one on the screen in Australia. Yeah, well, that'll be some sort of banking thing, but got to say, hand it to YouTube and Google. They've done a really good job, because in doing this with the American Red Cross, everything is beautifully integrated within the channel. So please have no doubt at all that the money is going exactly where it should go. Hansi has also donated. Thank you very much, Hansi, for that. That's very kind. Lots of questions coming in, but I don't want to absolutely swamp it with questions when everybody's starting to watch the start. It's the real countdown there. Peter from Mark Han, can you do another illustration video of how the drivers are taking selected corners each week? Your previous video was brilliant. Thank you very much for that. I will indeed. We have a little bit more time. I'll do something this week. I'm not quite sure what I can do around Zandvoort. I'll think of something. One thing that did strike me, actually, Mark, I think touched on this when we were just chatting on WhatsApp a couple of days ago, was how well Kimi in the sprint and indeed in qualifying was just driving the car like a dragster. He was just looking for every bit of straight road as he could, shortening the corners and just doing beautiful power application runs and just getting load out of the tires, just driving beautifully. Max doing the same. We didn't see quite as much of Max on TV, so it's kind of difficult to compare them, but I thought Kimi was outstanding in that respect. So I might do something on that little section, probably around 9, 10, that sort of thing. Yas says the race will be likely a snooze fest. Well, come on, Yas. Now, come on, let's be a little bit more optimistic than that. I mean, it has sprinkled with rain. At least that's something, isn't it? Games and Music says, I'm Dutch, but yeah, I was there on Friday, just have seen it for the last time, but I'm not expecting fireworks today. Yeah, well, such a shame, isn't it? Zandvoort, it's had highs and lows, tragedies, wonderful results and wins as well. Great races in the wet. Jackie Stewart, particularly 68 Dutch Grand Prix, one of his best ever wet wins. That was the day when Dunlop discovered if they actually grooved the center section out of one of their treaded tires, they could actually clear the water much more efficiently. And Dunlop basically then invented the wet weather tire, even though they kind of existed then, but that was a really great wet weather tire. Daniel Gould, hi Peter and Mark and chat. Max for the win. Wow. Hansi too, confirming rain at Zandvoort. Yeah, I mean, I think the rain has definitely excited things, but my style now, as we begin the formation lap and the covers do come off, is kind of to let the pictures tell the story and not talk too much over it. I'm not here to do a commentary, neither is Mark. We're here to make comments and also to look at your questions and comments, but we'll just keep going as the cars begin to set off for their laps. I'm going to tune into Max Verstappen, as one does. And I've got him on board as well. Track is drying up fast, says Connor. Say it'll be a dry start now. Yeah, it looks like there's nobody on Inters anyway.
No.
Nobody on hards. Oh, both the Cadillacs are on hard. Quite a lot of runners at soft towards the back of the grid, but nothing unusual there. Games and Music says Audi's slogan been very ironic, progress through technology, even though their technology is what made Formula One do a step backwards. Oh, if we have more comments like that, even Audi might start to take notice of what's going on. Yeah, and don't forget, we did all this so that we've got Audi in Formula One. Yeah. Mark Hans says, Peter, Max echoed Leclerc saying he can't make much difference with his driving anymore due to recharge limits and preset power deployment algorithms. Has Formula One taken too much control of the driver? Well, it has, absolutely, for sure. And if it's taken that much control around Zandvoort, imagine what it's going to be like around Monza in 2 weeks' time. Comments, please, Mark. What's Monza going to be like?
Oh, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. It's going to be horrific.
Yeah.
I'm almost thinking, well, I will watch it just to see how bad it is, but it is going to be atrocious because the amount of power you need there is huge, and they just don't have enough. Anyway, just a couple of things. I've got a radar running beside me, and there was a very light sprinkle that we saw just before while the cars were on the grid, but there's absolutely nothing behind that now. So
that's a shame.
Yeah, just looking at the track, it's mostly dry, isn't it? But you could see when they were looking up the grid towards the last corner, you could see that the banked track was actually quite damp still. And then there's a clear dry line down the middle of the start-finish straight. So that could be interesting if everyone overcooks through there. And
ambient and track temperatures about 2 degrees centigrade lower than they were yesterday. Not massive, but maybe significant if you're on mediums. One more question, which will be good for you, Mark, if you just handle it very quickly. 2022, lap 2, turn 2, Kev's catch was epic. Do you remember it, Mark?
That was actually before my time, but I do vaguely remember it. I was actually in the office at Haas watching it because I wasn't able to go to the track at that point. But yeah, it was. But yeah, it still was. His moment was enough to put him effectively out of the race, though, wasn't it? So yeah, it was a bit of a shame because he'd qualified quite well. but just got a bit too excited.
Okay, the
But that's
cars are
the thing.
pulling up on the grid now. Max has said it's still, I think he just said it's a little bit wet in some places. And you can see as he's pulling up on the grid doing his burnouts that there are some dark patches there, but not enough to make anybody want to run into us. Indeed, on the contrary, enough to make somebody like Max think, this is going to be quite fun. First couple of corners, he's on soft tires, new set of softs. So, as I say, look, Lewis is on new softs, as is Max, obviously, but all the other soft runners are on used softs. So Lewis and Max, in theory, will have a slight advantage off the line now, and everybody in front on medium. So it could be a spectacular first corner. Interesting to see where Max positions the car if the Red Bull gets him off the line. Anyway, let's see what happens. I think everybody's probably slightly ahead of us. Sorry about that, but from our point of view, the big red safety car thing is coming up, just stopping now, and the lights are coming on now. If you wanted to pause your thing to be in sync with us, I'll tell you when the first red lights just come on. Second, third, fourth. Lights out now. Looks like it's like Piastri made a good start, but then it got blocked. Max didn't look as if he made a very good start at all. He's got Liam alongside him going out of turn one. So it's Lando from Kimi. What a great start by Kimi. George will be very annoyed about that. What we need now is for Lando to take that line he did through turn 3 in the sprint, Mark.
Yeah, he hasn't done that though, has he?
No, he hasn't, but he might do it on lap 2. You never know.
That was wild. I just didn't understand what he was thinking of there, because that is just such a slow line, and he just immediately lost 5-6 car lengths to car ahead. So a very strange decision.
I think Max is saying somebody might have touched him. First corner, Lewis, I think he's saying might have touched him. They're looking to see if there's any. What would you be looking at there, Mark, to see if there's any damage? What sort of telemetry would you be looking at?
You're looking at loads, see if there's any obvious crossweight in the car, and the aero guys will be looking at aero loads. But to be honest, they won't have enough information yet to be able to make a decision unless they see a particular pressure trap.
Oh, Max has gone off. Yeah, gone off coming out of that last corner. Big one.
Out. Yeah. Oof. Oh my goodness. I think it's both.
There was a lot of spray. I was just about to say it's very wet. There's quite a lot of spray coming through that last corner. And I think I wasn't watching actually as it happened, but it looked like Max just lost it coming out.
Yeah, well, that was exactly what I was saying, but I'm surprised it's him that's done it.
He's very, very annoyed. F words, as you can imagine. Wow. I don't know.
Yeah, he's made a huge mistake.
He's made a huge mistake. He shouldn't have been where he was on the grid anyway, though. He's too good for that to be, down there in 7th place, 6th place, wherever he was, all because of the regs. Anyway, there you go. He was in a lot of spray and stuff. I was just about to say that, and I was looking back at my main camera here, and here we're going to see an onboard now. What happened? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff over the camera lens. Oof. I think he just got 2 over the curb on the inside, which is wet. Yeah. The apex curb, and I think that just threw the car slightly.
I do think that the Red Bull is lacking ultimate high-speed downforce compared to other cars.
Yeah,
and he's more on the edge in a corner like that than he should be. But yeah, that's just a very fundamental cock-up on his part.
Yeah. Not a happy way for Max to end his Zandvoort career in Formula One. Very sad to see that. So who else was involved there?
Well, someone slowed down a lot behind him, but I don't think anyone else actually made contact.
No, I think they did.
Yeah.
Not with him. I thought somebody else did. I may be wrong.
I just saw someone slowing down a lot behind him and sort of hanging back for some reason, while everyone else just took the opportunity to get on with it.
Right. Here's another bone of contention, which I've often talked about in live streams, which is that in this situation, many years ago, Max would have run back to the garage, there'd be a new start, and he'd be in a spare car. For the fans, for the Dutch fans, wouldn't that be brilliant? But do we allow it today? Oh no, much too expensive to do that. I mean, it's ludicrous, isn't it? When you think about the enjoyment of the fans and the money they're trying to save and how they're respending the money on other things like all this technology that isn't actually doing much for the racing. The money that actually it would cost for Red Bull to have a spare car ready to race now for Max to jump into and have a new fresh start, it's a tiny splash in the ocean compared with everything else that's being spent. And it's a huge, huge thing. It would be a huge thing for the fans if Max was able to do that.
Yeah, yeah, I tend to agree. Obviously, what you're talking about is they'd need to have an extra set of mechanics and more space in
Yeah.
the garages,
And
as we used to do. But it's, to me, it's a bit like when they were talking about banning tire blankets to save money. Um, that was basically all the team managers looking at the cost of shipping stuff around the world and saying, oh, that's £1,000 we don't need to spend, but compared to the overall budgets, it's so pathetically small.
yeah,
It's quite annoying, isn't it? It's proper accountants looking at things. It's not actually someone looking at
exactly.
the
And
big
those
picture.
accountants never take into account how much a Formula One fan, particularly a Dutch Formula One fan, enjoys watching Max Verstappen race in a
Yeah,
Grand Prix, particularly the home
yeah,
Grand Prix. That's
yeah.
never a factor in the decision they make. And of
No,
course, that's almost an incalculable amount of money
yeah.
that they could have spent in a very efficient way to have Max now in a spare car. But anyway, and for those that thinking what is Windsor on about, this spare car thing, it wasn't that long ago. It was Max Mosley that brought it all in, saying, "Oh no, we don't need spare cars." And I remember at a press conference at Monaco when he announced it, saying, and just in practice, I said, somebody stops on lap 2 with some sort of drive shaft failure in practice, and the fans are robbed of seeing him for 90 minutes now. It's when we used to have 90-minute practice sessions. And he said, "Oh, well, that's not an issue," he said. And I said, "Well, I didn't." I said to myself, "Well, that is an issue, Max," but they wouldn't allow me to come back with the mic. The mic was whipped out of my hand, and that was it. So, yeah, here we see Max actually making. Oh, yeah, he does hit Lewis there, doesn't he? Lewis
Yeah,
makes it very slow. That was very odd, that wasn't it? Watching that onboard now, I wonder whether Max had some damage there on the right front, but he would have felt it and he would have shown up on the lap before he got to the last corner, wouldn't he? Who's that on the outside of Max there?
well, that's Liam, isn't it?
Like, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
I guess so. I mean, he was right next to him through one, wasn't he? Yeah, a bit of a bump there from Lewis, that's for sure. And he goes around the outside, and Lewis is on the outside of Piastri. And then Lewis takes that inside line as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you're in the
That's
middle,
unlucky for Piastri there. Look, George is very slow away from the line, and Piastri has
yeah,
to come out of the throttle ready to avoid
yeah,
him. Good
yeah,
job that he actually didn't hit anybody in doing that.
yeah, yeah, agreed.
Oh, that was Piastri and Max there, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Oh, it was Liam.
yeah, it
Yes, it's
was.
Liam. He
Yeah,
goes up. Oof. That's a dodgy thing to do, isn't it?
yeah.
Oh, they're touching wheels as well.
Oh yeah, that's good though, isn't it?
It's
He
good. It's good. But I
showed.
mean, if you're looking to have your Red Bull seat and everything,
I think he knows that that's not going to happen, doesn't he? So
I suppose so. Ah, what a shame. What a shame.
well, it's a shame 'cause it just takes interest out of the race, doesn't it?
Well, it does, in these
You know that Max
situations,
is
in this
someone
rain.
who'd make it more interesting.
And he's on new softs as well,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. So, but there you go.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to. I mean, the good news is we've got all you viewers and fans to talk to now, rather than Mark and I just sitting here on our own watching this what could well be a very boring race now. Daniel McCormick says, "Hi, Peter and Mark. Can you guess how Formula One allowed the regs to be like this with all the simulations and data available these days? I feel like they must have known there were issues before the season started." Well, I think all the people who took the trouble to do. Oh, yeah, that somebody
Other
else
than
spun
happy.
that. Who's that spin? Bortoletto that spins.
Yeah, yeah. Looks
Ah,
like it.
yeah, that's what I saw. Does he spin on his own or does he spin? Yeah, he spins on his own.
Yeah.
Mm.
just gets
But
down the
unlike
bottom
Max, he
there.
does a perfect 360. What's going on, Max?
Yeah.
What's happened to your car control all of a sudden? He asked facetiously. Um,
Nice
yeah,
save.
the regs, I think the answer is that the people that cared and had the knowledge did do all the data and simulation and warned the powers that be as much as they could not to go in this route. Correct, Mark?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think they got themselves into a situation where I suspect they hadn't done enough simulation before the sort of important details of the rules were agreed by the team bosses, the engine manufacturers, and then they went back and gave the people who could work it out the information. They then looked at it and said, "Well, hang on a minute, this is going to be awful." By which point, it needed agreement of people who'd already made a decision to change things, and vested interests came into play, and they wouldn't. So we've ended up in this problem. But behind it all was an agenda, and the agenda of getting more electrical power, because 5 years ago that's what most governments were pushing for, too early, and this desire to get other engine manufacturers, Audi primarily, but others as well, into the sport, and that just led to an awful decision, or awful decisions being made and put in place.
Terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, so annoying. Um, Boss says Lawson not intimidated by Max. Yep, absolutely right. Yeah, as you say, good to see it. Incongruent Tart you are says, where am I? Where are all of you? And then Yas is saying, stop with the caps. I think that's right. Let's not do any caps. It's not necessary. Rivulen says, looks like Max took a very tight line. What a shame. Yeah, I mean, took a tight line through turn 3 as well. And I wonder that was, I don't know, interesting. Roland's 666. Sorry, chaps, no Max. Boring race. See you next race. Okay, fair enough. I think that's,
The fans are still having fun,
yeah, I mean, they will somehow.
although I think some of them are leaving. Maybe they're just going to get a hot dog.
Yeah. Do they have hot dogs? I'm just trying to think. There's probably more chips with
Chips,
mayonnaise,
chips
isn't
and
it? That sort
mayonnaise,
of
like
thing.
the
Yeah,
Belgians, maybe.
probably. I'm not sure about the Dutch hot dogs. Probably okay. Probably, I mean, the Germans are quite good at that. Um,
It is fantastic how the Dutch fans really do enjoy it, though.
yeah,
It really
it
stood out
is.
when I first went there in 23. My first experience of it, the noise, the flares going off is absolutely extraordinary, and they've been at it for hours before the race as well. So it's the nearest to it was Brazil, where when there was a Brazilian driver in with a chance, the Brazilian fans get very, very excited as well. But that's the only two circuits really. I guess Mexico a little bit with Perez, but it's really impressive how into it the Dutch get.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting point. Malcolm Hepburn says, does the lack of runoff area make this a non-Formula One track? Well, certainly no runoff area on the outside of that bank corner, but it does kind of come back to my criticism of bank corners in general, because my main point that I've made in live streams and all along is that it's one thing to have bank corners in ovals. It's another to have them on road courses where effectively you're making the corner much easier to drive in the dry. But of course, what happens on ovals in the wet is that they don't race. And here we
Yeah,
are, we've got a bank corner and it's wet, and Max
but
Verstappen's crashed. And that's an interesting point, isn't it? That
yeah. Well, the reason we've got bank corners on this track is because there isn't enough runoff area. So in order to make it a fast enough track and half sensible for Formula One, they had to put the bank corners in. And that's because if you look at where the circuit is, there's no space outside these corners for proper runoff areas, because they would still be quite high-speed corners. So it was a deliberate decision to try and get Formula One cars at sensible speeds around the circuit, but within the constraints of the space they've got.
Ronnie Front says Peter making excuses for Max was embarrassing. I'm just interested to know what excuse you think I made for Max. I didn't. I just said he went off and he looked like he touched a wet curb on the inside. The only thing I did speculate was whether or not he might have damaged the right front on the line with that appeared to have a slight brush with Lewis. That's the only thing I speculated about. So please don't put words in my mouth, and very happy to have you on board watching, but don't be like that. Anonymous says Max always has very wide shoulders. Glad Lawson showed him he's also willing to come close to crash to gain an advantage. Yeah, and there's another point there. I think Max has got Lawson behind him there, and Max for sure knows. And I've said for many years, Liam Lawson is really good in the wet and the semi-wet. That's where he comes to his his sweet spot as a driver. Phenomenal. And maybe that was a little bit more pushing Max harder than maybe he wanted to go at that moment of the race. But then again, he is on the new softs, so he should in theory have had a little bit more grip than Liam at that point of the race. The tires wouldn't have been fully up to temperature, I don't think.
Yeah.
So yeah, very impressive start by Liam. Definitely a much better start than Max made. Although Max, I don't know how much he came out of the throttle. We'll have to look at the telemetry with that business and the with Lewis there.
I think it was a pretty big lift, wasn't it? Because he actually had to run round the outside of Lewis ahead, and Lewis moved over. So I think he'd made a decent start, and then he had to back out a bit.
Yeah. And Learn, Teach, Learn says, agree, Lawson had him pushing harder than he wanted to. Yeah, could well be. Will it be a grid start or rolling start after the red flag? I'm guessing it'll be a grid start, won't it?
I think they'll be keen to do another grid start. That is their preference, unless conditions are really poor. And obviously, since it hasn't rained and looking at the radar, it still doesn't look likely to. I'm pretty sure we'll be doing a standing start.
Yeah, and it's their prerogative, I think, to choose.
Yeah.
But they've gone out of their way to try and make it, as many grid starts as we can get.
Yeah.
So Liam Lawson potentially could have a very good day now, I think, and could. Whether or not that will change things for him, I don't know. They've got an abundance of drivers at Red Bull now, haven't they? But if Liam goes well today, that won't hurt him, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's what he's got to set his stall out, as someone who other teams are going to look to hire in the future as well, isn't he?
Yeah, and we got Yuki Tsunoda on screen at the moment, and he did a good job in qualifying. Didn't get into Q3, but he was right there with Arvid in terms of lap time, not far away. And you'd say, well, he's much more experienced, so he should. Well, it's quite a big deal to jump back into the actual car under pressure and start to have to perform. And Arvid, we know, is super quick. So although Arvid did make it through to Q3, very little between them. So that was good performance by Yuki, I think. Good to have him back in that sense. And Red Bull have obviously done a good job with him in terms of how they've used him and the sim and so forth, and kept him ready to go. How about your man, Nico Hulkenberg? How's he doing, Mark?
For some reason, Nico always seems to get wrapped up in whatever bad stuff is going on, doesn't he, at the moment? He's... In fact, he only just missed Bortoleto there. Crikey. He's done a good job to avoid them.
Yeah.
I will say Nico is the driver, the best driver I've worked with who hasn't in any way fulfilled his potential. It's absolutely extraordinary how he's managed to avoid success somehow, basically by being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I can't emphasize just how good Nico is. He's as good as other drivers I've worked with who've won races and pretty much even championships. His feel for the car is exceptional. When the car's in the ballpark and he's got his head on in qualifying, he's absolutely fantastic. If you remember I think it was 2018, we were kind of like best of the rest for most of the season. And but he wasn't just by a little bit. And even when Carlos Sainz came into the team, it got a lot closer. Obviously, dealing with Jolyon Palmer wasn't quite such a problem for Nico, to be honest. But Carlos came in, and Nico was a bit concerned that Carlos was going to, prove a bit too competitive for him, maybe. And certainly when Carlos came in, it was a close match. But to be honest, Nico got the upper hand quite quickly. So yeah, I guess actually that was the end of 2017, wasn't it? And all through
Yeah.
2018, Nico had the measure of Carlos, and Carlos is very good. So, and they were a great team as well. They got on well, and they had different strengths when it came to driving the car, and it was a really good atmosphere within the team with those two there. And I would say we made the most progress with sort of our car development and how to run things when those two drivers were in the car. So I felt it was a bit of a shame when Danny Rick came into the team. Not because I don't like Danny; he's fabulous. He is was a fabulous driver. But it just seemed that at that point we didn't need Danny in the team out. We weren't good enough to have him there, and it just disrupted the atmosphere within the team a bit. And I think it put us on the back foot. Maybe I would say that because I was Nico's engineer and I didn't want the threat from Danny Rick coming in the team. But I actually thought Nico could handle him. And the start of 2019, he did. But then a few problems came in. We had some bad luck, particularly in Shanghai, where we had a big problem with the engine in terms of it wasn't running. We had some coils that weren't working. And the two occasions when Nico tried to sort of make his mark and show Danny that he had it controlled, things conspired against Nico and he didn't get the results. And then Danny became more confident in the car. And I think Nico he tended to roll over a little bit at that point. And he even said that to me afterwards, that he got pretty fed up trying to push the car around to finish 8th, 7th or 8th. And he lost his mojo a bit for the rest of the season, but which, that's not good. He shouldn't have done that.
No.
But I think it was kind of understandable.
Kevin T says, hello from the UK. Happy to have your company. Thank you. Traditional commentary, so hyper. Love to listen to more considered thoughts and appraisal. Thank you very much indeed, Kevin. Couldn't agree with you more. Anonymous Mouse, greetings. Thanks for opening the chat to non-members, Peter. Here's to see what these are like. Well, without Max, it's not going to be quite the same race, but nonetheless, we'll be doing our best to tell you what's going on, in why things are happening, more perhaps than what is happening. I think is what this is all about. Dutch government didn't invest a penny into Zandvoort. Yeah, well, I'm not surprised. In the same way that the German government don't invest in Hockenheim or Nürburgring, or the French government into Paul Ricard, because it's a money-losing enterprise to stage a Grand Prix, to promote a Grand Prix in your country. Yes, of course, there are benefits to the economy and to all the surrounding industry. But bottom line, they lose money, which is why the three key European countries, Holland, France, Germany, in the history of Formula One, don't have Grand Prix. And that's it. If we want to have those circuits, we need to make concessions, reduce costs really of putting on. So yeah, obviously we don't want trolls on this stuff. I'm sort of bypassing those because there's quite a lot going on. But I just wanted to say at this point that we do have this appeal, which we're trying to raise money for, or are raising money for. Thank you very much for those that have donated already in aid of the Colombian earthquake appeal activated by the US Red Cross. And there is a donate button on your chat box if you'd like to donate. No pressure, but we'd love you to do it. Thank you very much. And Mark and I are very much behind it as well. Where are we going? Frag Dude, wondering about Max's shunt, says, I wonder if there was a bit too much unpredictable deployment from the MGU there. What do you think, Mark?
To be honest, I think he just came down too low on the track, and because he went onto the curb. These cars are very stiff in roll, and the warp of the track just meant basically one of the tires, probably the inside rear, effectively got unloaded as he got on the power, and that spun him round. It's something you see in IndyCar when they're on the bank tracks. If a driver comes down too low onto the apron as he's on power, you'll just lose the car because you've unloaded the rear tire. So unfortunately, I think he made essentially a rookie mistake, as did Bortoleto. I think he did exactly the same thing. Maybe didn't get quite as low down on the track. Actually, they're replaying it now. But you can see as that curve comes up, if you ride onto that, you can imagine that you're going from a car that's square to the track to suddenly, effectively, you're putting the inside tires across almost like effectively a sort of channel, and your ride height effectively goes up, and you lose a bit of downforce as well as the warp effect on the car. So yeah, it's just a really, really bad idea, and obviously the other drivers avoided doing that.
Yes, 23 agrees. Yes, spare cars are needed. Let's get spare cars back again. There's another t-shirt slogan we need to come up with, I think, because there's absolutely no reason not to have them in the overall picture of things. And I know it costs more money to have the team you need to run the spare car, all that stuff. But is it as expensive as what we're doing with the engines at the moment, for example? No.
No, no.
I
So it's
used to
kind
love the spare
of,
car as a kid, says yes. Well, there you go. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool too. You'd see pictures of John Surtees in a Ferrari and with a big T next to it, the training car. Yeah, it's cool stuff.
as an engineer, T cars were an absolute pain in the ass.
Oh, well, yeah. Who cares
Because you
about the
had to
engineers, you know? They're
you
just
had to
employees, aren't they? Get on.
deal with two sets of mechanics.
Yeah,
Make
because
sure
they
all
never
the
had an engineer for the spare car. It was always the two
no,
race engineers that just never
yeah,
got home, did they?
yeah, yeah. And one of the fun things of 2007 was when I ran Fernando at McLaren was in order to try and make Fernando feel like he was still the number one driver. He was given the T car for the whole year. It was like, oh, great. And when Lewis crashed his car on it was the Friday in Monaco, I basically had to stay behind. Sorry, I was on the Thursday, wasn't it? I had to stay behind on the Thursday night when normally you go out for a few beers and something to eat. I had to stay behind whilst they basically had to build a new car for a spare car, and I really wasn't very impressed with that. So yeah, as an engineer, T cars are not much fun, but I
No.
can see why for the overall spectacle,
And
it would be sensible to have them back.
and being the Williams team, when we did have the spare car and we did have the test team, the amount of acrimony between the race mechanics and the test team mechanics, and the possessiveness of the test team chief mechanic
Yeah,
not wanting to
yeah.
share anything with the race team.
Well,
But that took up, I don't know,
yeah,
30-40% of my time, I think, trying to get those barriers down between the two so
yeah,
that we actually had a
absolutely.
more efficient operation. But mechanics become very possessive, don't they, of their car?
They can do. It's one of the things that, to be honest, that's become better. I think
Yeah.
I wasn't terribly impressed with some of the politics that went on between mechanics when I started in the business, and I would say that over the years that has become much better as people have started basically to act in a more grown-up sort of way. We actually used to have two T cars at Monaco because the risk of an accident was so great that you'd actually have a
Yeah,
spare car
4 cars there,
for
yeah.
each driver.
Yeah.
And in 2000, and I can't remember whether it's 2002 or 2003, Kimi managed to drive all 4 cars in qualifying at one point
Brilliant.
because he had I think he had an engine failure in his own car in the tunnel. Then he jumped into the T car, and there was a problem with that. And I think by this point, David had jumped into his T car, and I think we ended up having to convert the David's car for Kimi to get in, and then something else happened, and he ended up in DC's T car. It was absolutely insane. I've
Well,
never seen.
that was one of the reasons Carlos lost the world championship in the championship decider at Vegas because Williams was very good at running 3 cars at the end of the day, despite the acrimony between Brian Lambert and Dickie Stanford and all that stuff. I mean, Brian was a great mechanic, but it was his team and test
Quite
team, and
prickly,
nobody was
wasn't
allowed to touch it. Yeah, yeah, but he's good, very good mechanic. But for that last race, because Alan Jones's contract said he had to have a spare car, and because Carlos was in the running, Williams thought, oh, well, we better take a spare car for Carlos. So we ran 4 cars in Vegas, and the whole thing was a complete mess from beginning to end because we just weren't equipped to run 4 cars. It's a big, difficult thing to do. Daniel McCormick says, sad to see Max out in his home Grand Prix, but the low line on a bank corner in the damp lap 1 is a bit brave. Yeah, well, I think you've said that very well, Daniel. Very, very accurate. Do you guys have a favorite racing moment from Watkins Glen? It's my favorite track in the US. I don't suppose Mark has. Have you ever been to Watkins
never
Glen, Mark?
been there. No, no,
Oh, right.
no,
It's a
no.
lovely place. You've missed
Yeah.
something. I don't know. Lots of favorite moments. James Hunt parking his car every afternoon after practice outside the Ithaca Girls College to watch them coming out was, I thought, always quite funny. Here I am, girls. I'm James Hunt. Not quite like that, but along those lines. I don't know. I mean, 74 was impressive. That was the first Brabham 1-2 in the Bernie Eccleston era. And when they crossed the line to take the checkered flag, Reutemann, Pache, Bernie was already at Elmira Airport on the way back to England, beginning a new era of Formula One of, well, we don't really care about the racing. It's all about money. So it was his team. It was his first ever 1-2. And he wasn't even there. He'd been at the track, but he left long before the end. Thought that was quite impressive. Watkins Glen, I don't know, the golf really, I think. Andre de Cesaris driving a buggy over the green to get to the next tee, I think. That's quite fun. Right, there we go. Patsy2, since Mr. Windsor is too nice, any amount as a donation appreciated. Easy as 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much, Hansi, for saying that. Bring back Manicure. Yeah, what do you think about Manicure, Mark?
I quite like being able to buy cheaper French wine in the supermarkets. We had
Nevers.
Yeah, we used to, on the way down from Paris, we used to stop off in Sancerre town itself, and there was a guy who used to make wine there. It was very nice. We used to buy some of that and stick it in the belly lockers of the test team truck.
I love Manicure. I mean, lots of chateaus around, weren't there? And
Yeah,
lots of great
beautiful area. Very
restaurants,
quiet.
and it wasn't too hyper. It was a great, and the original Manicure was a great circuit as well. GW from Thailand says, counting down the lights out really helps with the synchronization of the video. Okay, we'll do that again now. With the best commentary feed available, exclamation mark. Well, thank you very much. Another member, one over here from Thailand. That's very kind. Yas says, bring back all European races and Malaysia. Well, we got Malaysia coming back with Sepang. That's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Max accelerated over that wet curb. Yeah, I mean, they are accelerating there because they're just building up power all the time there, aren't they? Energy.
Yeah, and they're just accelerating out of the previous corner. So normally that's just flat out.
Yeah.
But that's why I was concerned when I saw the reflection when they were sat on the grid. I thought, anyone who underestimates that corner is going to pay a price. And
yeah, and we did have forgive me for not recalling his name, but we did have a viewer who was at the track, and his initial thing was, well, it stopped raining, but it's still intermediates. Interesting, eh? Jeremy says, yes, bring back spare cars. Definitely a new T-shirt for that. I doubt it'll ever happen, but wow, wouldn't it be good if it did? Ronnie says, I remember Michael jumping into a spare Ferrari. Yeah, well, and that was, a lot of that was around the 76 British Grand Prix as well. James Hunt jumping into the spare McLaren, but not doing the full lap before he got into the spare McLaren. He sort of did the club circuit lap, and that's what all the argy-bargy was about. Here we go. Music. It might rain now with this extension. Good point. What's your radar saying there, Mark?
No rain. No.
Okay.
Nothing. What's going to be interesting now is the tyre choices that people are going to make. Obviously, a lot of people started on new softs that aren't new anymore.
Yeah, well, and Norris, for a start, has gone on to use softs.
He's on softs. We actually got Piastri on hard now.
Yeah.
So this is going to be quite interesting. This is, oh no, that's Ollie out.
He's had a terrible weekend. I mean, he's even been at Zandvoort. Haven't seen his name anywhere in anything.
Yeah, the last two races haven't gone
What's
well
going on with him? Or the
this
team
is going
or whatever.
Cause a problem, though, isn't it?
What do you think's happening there, Mark? I mean, you're a Haas man.
Yeah,
can we blame you?
I don't know. He's an excellent driver. He really is.
He's superb.
Young lad. He's so carefree most of the time. But I think I don't know. I just get the impression that Haas are not capitalising on the position that they were in at the start.
They're not going to delay the start. Sorry for Ollie. So let's just watch this start now. I'm going to do the sync lights thing again. So if you want to join us in synced form, I will do the call out of the lights. So expect Norris to make a pretty good start with these softs. Oof, they're on the grid a long time, very slow. The cars at the back of the grid pulling up, aren't they?
Very.
Now we've got a delayed start because of the Behrman thing. They make up their mind. Talk about slow decision making. Yes, 23 ER says the spare. Here's a good one, Mark. You'll love this. Spare cars could be powered by 100% ICE engines, so the drivers can catch up the pack from the back of the grid. I like that one.
Oh, dear.
I can't see Stefano going for that. Can you?
Not really, no.
Um, yeah, LearnTech says, I don't think spare cars will work with the focus on cost. No, you're absolutely right. That's why we're doing it. But as I keep saying, the cost of running a spare car and giving the fans a second chance to see their favorite drivers and making the race better as a result is minuscule compared with the cost of going from the 2025 power units to the 2026 power units.
Yeah, it's a bit like someone at Shell reducing the number of paper clips available, if assuming paper clips still get
Yeah,
you anybody. But
yeah,
it's obviously that's a ridiculous comparison, but it is literally that sort of thing. It's not. It's just a few £100,000 here and there compared to the literally tens of millions that they're actually spending.
yeah. Daniel Brodsky says, please give us times on our feed. I presume this is a sync thing. And just to let you know, right now, mine is at 1 minute 50. Sorry, how many? I've got 1.52.49. I don't know, whatever
I
that
don't.
means. That's the time to the end of the race. So 2 hours, I guess, isn't it? Yeah, it'd be easier just to say how much time has passed, wouldn't it? But anyway, there you go. Where are we? Frag dude says they basically do have spare cars already. It's just that they're all in pieces. Well, yeah, that's not strictly true, of course, because Williams didn't have even a spare monocoque, did they, in Australia a couple of years ago?
They should have, but
They
no, they
should have, but they didn't.
no. True to say that it doesn't actually take the teams long to build up the spare chassis into another car.
Yeah.
It has been done quite a few times.
Wayne Jardine says, lol, the legendary James Hunt. Yeah, well, that's why I've got him at the beginning. I hope you noticed at the beginning of the intro to this show, got James winning at Zandvoort in 76. Fernando nearly lost the back of the Aston Martin then doing a burnout. And he did spin once on the formation lap. I can't remember
Barcelona.
what.
Yeah,
I thought it was Nürburgring. I think he did it at Nürburgring too. It's twice
he
now
did
he's
it.
done
I
it.
remember in Barcelona coming
Yeah,
around the last corner and
yeah.
losing it before he came to the grid. But yeah,
Yeah. Anyway, this is an interesting race now, isn't it? Because Kimi's in front of George, and George will not enjoy that, and he wants to beat Kimi to stop this momentum, this Kimi momentum. So I think we need to focus on that, and obviously whether Lando now and softs can pull away and win this race. Right, going to do the light call again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lights out. Good start from George. Better start by George, but Lando moves across and on softs. George has got the inside running. Lando moves around the outside, but has to give him room. Good start by George. Made up for his errors last time. Was it George or Kimi?
that's
Sorry,
Kimi.
Kimi. Got it
Kimi.
wrong.
Yeah.
Kimi. Very good by Kimi. And George P3. Wow. Nice work, Kimi Antonelli. Very, very good.
Oh, still
It's not,
going wrong for George.
it's not very good for George, is it? He's got a very hungry looking pair of Ferraris behind him as well, both of which are on softs, George on the medium. That'll be George's issue, I guess, but didn't really hurt Kimi though, did it? Wow. I was saying just before the start, it's a big race for Kimi if he can get to the front or keep ahead of George. But look at that. Lindblad drive-through penalty. That's a shame. Miran has just donated. Thank you very much. This is the best way to follow Formula One. Both of you are just incredible. Well, I was incredible until I called George instead of Kimi, but apart from that, it's been going reasonably well. Apologies for that. Kimi's just been told he's at the limit of power, which is good, I think, isn't it? Means he's harnessed the power perfectly, I think, is what he means.
Yeah, it's a
Bono
strange
seems very
comment.
relaxed and calm about it all. Look at the way Kimi's pulling away.
Yeah,
That's impressive, isn't it?
it's super impressive, but unfortunately, I think it's going to make for a relatively unexciting race
Well,
for
yeah, but if you're
yeah,
McLaren at the moment, you think, come on, Lando, you're on soft tyres. That's why we put you on softs, mate. Come on.
yeah,
But this is a critical point, isn't it? Because if Lando's going to do anything, it should be right now. He's
yeah.
actually purple sector 1 on this lap. to the tune of not much, tenth or so. But anyway, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt because he is relatively close now. Kimi Antonelli, 18.9. Oof, Lando 16.9. Lando 16.8, tenth of a second. Yeah. If Kimi can control the pace, his medium tire pace, then Lando's going to have more problems keeping the soft tires in great shape. Oscar Piastri's pass on George Russell, very, very good.
Yeah, very good.
And Oscar on hard tires. I mean, that's impressive, isn't it? What's your feeling about the range of compounds, Mark?
Overall, the tyres are too hard for the circuit. We saw them struggling to even get the fronts of the soft tyre working in qualifying. The problem is that makes it, under normal circumstances, a one-stop race. And I was thinking that there's a good chance someone could even do the race as a soft medium. Whether they will do that or whether they'll presumably if you're in the lead and you've got a comfortable lead, you'll put a hard on just to make, for a conservative choice. Possibly someone starting on medium could take it far enough to put a soft on to finish the race as well. But again, if you're leading comfortably, there's probably no reason to do that. But it just comes down to the fact that Pirelli don't like negative comments about their tyres. And whilst as fans we might prefer to have some tyres on highly degrading tyres doing 2 stops and other cars on a conservative choice doing 1 stop, there's nothing in that for Pirelli. And so they're just not going to work towards that, no. Even if the team say they want, or the F1 say they want it, it's almost impossible to get Pirelli to actually commit to that because it just doesn't look good for them. Although I think they're a bit short-sighted. In IndyCar, they managed to run a soft and a hard tyre without too much trouble. But then it comes down to the fact that they've got refueling, so that spices up the whole strategy game, which Formula One obviously doesn't have.
Colapinto got a drive-through as well. Good battle between Charles Leclerc and George Russell. I mean, Charles should do him on the soft tyre. George will not want to lose any more positions, so this will be fun to watch. It's surprising, isn't it? George is surprisingly slow. Is that the right word?
Well, he's in traffic now, so he's going to pay the penalty of dirty truck car airflow ahead of him.
Yeah. I mean, he's relatively free air right now, and he did a 17.3 to Kimi's 16.8. So there's your half second.
Yeah.
I say relatively free. I mean, how far? I mean, in theory, it's easier to follow these cars, isn't it, or not?
They're definitely better than the previous generation, but you're still going to lose quite a lot of downforce from the car ahead. It's just that you don't need to have as big an advantage over the car ahead to follow as you used to. So that makes for somewhat closer racing, but it's always going to be a disadvantage. And then George is making sure he's covering the line in case Charles does try and pass him anywhere, so he can't drive the perfect lap with Charles close behind. But what we're seeing here is that the overtake mode this year is all done by power above 290 kilometers an hour. And since the end of straight speeds at this track, even on the longer straight, aren't that high, then it doesn't really give you much of a chance. Whereas last year we had DRS through the banked corner all the way down the straight, and it gave people a much better chance of overtaking people. So, unfortunately, I think, again, these new rules are not conducive to an interesting race at Zandvoort.
Mark, what do you think they'll do now with Kimi, bearing in mind Lando's on softs, he's got the lead, he's on used medium. Do you think they'll try and go for a one-stopper?
Absolutely, yeah. There's no benefit to doing 2 stops unless you have to.
And what about Lando now? He's in quite a difficult position in terms of what they're going to do with him, right?
He is, but again, it's unlikely that two stops will give him any advantage unless they can time it such he's able to come out in clear track and have a big advantage. But I don't think the soft tyre gives a very big advantage on lap time.
No, looks like I can see
Um,
a graining streak on the left front of Lando's car already.
yeah, he's obviously closing on Kimi, but his performance advantage would have to be significant for him to make it through. We'll see. I think Kimi's playing a sensible game. He'll be backing off through the high-speed turn 7 just to preserve his tyres and just pacing the gap to Lando, making sure that even if Lando gets close, he doesn't get close enough.
And when you look at Kimi's weekend up until now, he was very, very quick out of the box at the beginning of practice on Friday. And then he made that mistake. And it was kind of, "Ugh, I'm not going to make any more mistakes." And then he made another one. And I think he just clipped his wings slightly for qualifying. And as a result, a lot of focus is on George, and he got the lead and he won the sprint race. And then we got George saying, "Oh, I've got my mojo back. I'm very confident." But I remember thinking this morning, I was out walking Dexter, thinking, it's not the sort of thing George should be saying, because it's not clear yet that he has got a significant advantage over Kimi around Zandvoort. And because Kimi looks so good in attack mode in the sprint race, and very good in the early days, moments of Friday. And here we are, exactly that. Kimi looking absolutely brilliant. Right
Yeah,
now, his last lap 16.7, Lando 16.8, kind of defined by what Kimi's doing. Meanwhile, on the hard tyre, Piastri 17.3, holding off George, doing 17.3, and Charles and Lewis, who aren't able to maximize the soft tyre yet, really, on the Ferrari. And this shows how difficult it is to overtake, doesn't it? This whole George
yeah,
Russell train here.
yeah. I'm sure Charles is quicker, but not quick enough as things stand.
No. And as perhaps if you could just explain why in reality there's less opportunity for overtaking at Zandvoort this year compared with last, in terms of the amount of the DRS area from the last corner
Yeah,
has effectively
yeah.
been taken away.
So last year you had DRS through the bank curve all the way down the start finish straight. So effectively you had a significant drag reduction from very early on down the straight. So you could build up speed and get past the car before the braking zone. This year, the overtaking mode just gives the overtaking car, or the car with the potential to overtake, more power above 290 kilometers an hour. And that difference in power is gradual. So as you go from 290 upwards, the amount of power advantage increases. But obviously at this track, where you're really only getting up to between 305 and 315 kilometers an hour end of straight with that extra power, it just doesn't give you long. You haven't got a very long period where you have a power advantage of any significance. And so it makes it almost impossible to actually get through. I mean, that power advantage will only come at about this point here, I'd imagine, as they're coming down the straight now. And he's already got, 4 car lengths ahead. So it's not enough of an advantage.
With Lando on softs and Piastri on hards, who do you think will be in front of those two McLaren drivers at the end of the race?
At the moment, I would say Norris has got enough of an advantage. It depends how far Oscar can go on those hards longer than Lando. But yeah, you would say that Piastri's looking pretty strong, isn't he? I would say at the moment.
He is. He's starting to go really well. I mean, the only
But
problem is that
Lando's got a bit of a problem in that he's going to struggle. He certainly isn't going to be building a big enough lead to come out ahead of Oscar. So then he's going to be stuck behind Oscar until Oscar stops. But chances are he's going to be stuck behind someone further back than that. So
and it's
I'd
good to
say
see
at the moment,
McLaren. It's good to see McLaren actually going for two different options,
yeah,
because it was too much of, oh well, that's what Lando's doing, we'll do the same thing last year, and this is the
yeah,
right way to do it.
yeah, absolutely.
We got the first three are all different tires. Kimi's on mediums, Lando's on softs, Oscar's on hards. Good.
I'm sure Lando was given the chance to go on hards if he thought, but he probably thought, well, no, I want to be attacking early on, so I'll go the other way.
Yeah, I want to get off the line is probably what he thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Omol Hotke, thank you very much. Hi, Peter Mark. Is there any driver in the history you know that does not behave too aggressively? Max, Senna, Michael, always too aggressive, but still won races fairly by doing magic on the track. Well, you're asking me a question. I mean, Jim Clark. I mean, it's pretty much of a no-brainer, that one. I can think of plenty of drivers who fit that bill, but Jim would be the best, only because, in my opinion, he was the best of all anyway. So there you go. Anyone you want to select there, Mark?
Well, I think Mika and Kimi
Yeah, good
weren't
points. Both of
aggressive
them
drivers.
very clean drivers, weren't they?
They're very, very clean
Yeah.
drivers.
I
I
would
remember
add
one.
Nigel Mansell to that too, actually. I don't think, I mean, for all Nigel's heavy handshake and all that stuff, and, you know, thumping Gerhard Berger and Andrea de Cesaris and all the other stuff, in a car, he was very, very clean.
Yeah, I think Nigel. The only time he wasn't clean was when he felt he'd been done dirty, wasn't it? And then he might have a go. But one thing I will
Usually
say,
when he was out of the car, though, I think.
yeah. But I will say, not a race I was at, but Adelaide in 90. Which year was it?
2.
92. Yes, when Senna was leading. Sorry, Nigel was leading, and Ayrton was second. And at one point, Ayrton came on the radio to his engineer and to Ron, and basically said, "If Nigel brake tests me one more time, I'm just going to ram him." And sure enough, 2 laps later, that's what happened.
Hmm.
And I think Gerhard Berger won that race as a result.
Yeah, I think.
But that was the only one I remember. And Ayrton actually said to his pit crew, "Tell Williams that if Nigel brake tests me one more time, I'm just going to go for it."
That was probably in response for Nigel crashing at the beginning of, was it Spa 87? I think when Ayrton definitely brake tested him going into the chicane, and the quick chicane, and he probably hated it that Nigel had said that, and at the time it was a cool thing for Ayrton to say. But I can tell you now, Nigel never brake tested Ayrton Senna, never, and that
Okay.
would have been an Ayrton ploy for sure. So Trailbreak says German Hockenheim also will return. Okay, well, good. Finally, let's have that. Anyway, let's get down to the bottom, because we've been talking quite a lot. Haven't heard too much from you guys. Alan Prost, another driver not overly aggressive. Yeah, I think that's a fair comment.
Yeah.
Alan Prost,
Yeah.
definitely we should include him. Charles also not that clean. Well, I'd agree with that. Charles is not the cleanest driver in the world at all. You don't want to get into any sort of dice with him. I'm at pace 0. I'm at pace 0, says Oscar. Good. He says Kimi's got 1.8 seconds over Lando Norris. Good bit of work. Great bit of work by Kimi Antonelli. I mean, just talk about Kimi, Mark, because he's had the August break now, leading the championship, young Italian. Be quite easy for him to come out getting a bit cocky about it all, wouldn't it? Or somehow for his attitude to change. But he's exactly the same driver, if not more so. He's just brilliant.
His coolness is outstanding. Yeah, his whole mindset is it's rock solid, isn't it? And he's so impressive. I do think that his most, in terms of the driving, where his advantage comes is that he's so smooth and so easy on the tyres. And these Pirelli tyres, as soon as you slide the contact patch, you lose grip because the surface overheats, and it's something that ever since we've had the Pirelli tyres has been an issue. It was much more so than with the other manufacturers, Michelin and Bridgestone, beforehand. And I think that's one of his strengths, is that he drives the car so delicately and so beautifully that he's not sliding the contact patch as much as pretty much everyone else. And this is why he's able to take the tyres longer and faster through the race. It's absolutely fantastic what he does.
Odd comment from Oscar. They said, "How are the tyres, Oscar?" And he said, "Not bad. They don't feel that much better than the medium." Well, why would they? That's a hard tyre.
Yeah.
But that just shows they don't like the medium, I guess.
I think it's more that, again, sometimes we see with the hard tyre, because it has a little bit less grip, you tend to actually slide around a bit more on hard than the medium maybe, and then you actually lose more grip. So on some circuits, the hard tyre doesn't have the advantage that you think it would have.
George Russell into the pits. A disgruntled George Russell, you got to say. He was going nowhere, wasn't he? I suppose that
Yeah,
was that the right call to make for him? Do you think, Mark?
I guess he's trying to do the undercut, isn't he? But
Where
whether
are
that
we?
will work, we'll
Lap
see.
18. Undercut? I mean, Kimmy's not going to come into what, lap 32
No,
minimum?
just on the car ahead of him, not
Oh, I see
not.
what you mean. Yeah. Well, he should be thinking of beating Kimmy though, shouldn't he? He's in a Mercedes.
I think that's gone. It's just I can't see how he can from this point forwards, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Just going back to it though, kudos to you, Mark, because one of the early questions was who's looking good in terms of race pace? And guess who Mark Slade nominated? Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah.
And guess who's leading the Dutch Grand Prix and pulling away right now from Lando, who's saying his tyres don't feel great. So George is in theory going to go the rest of the race, do you reckon?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It's a long way on the hards, but anyway, he will do it. So lap times, Kimi Antonelli 17.3, Lando 17.4, unable to do anything about it. Charles Leclerc 17.2, loving that free air as Oscar Piastri also comes in to get rid of his hard tyre. I assume to get rid of the hard tyre. What's he on?
It's difficult to see. I mean, that's a very early stop for that tyre.
Yeah, he's on another set of hards.
That's very strange.
What's that all about? Puncture,
I
maybe?
possibly that doesn't make sense to me.
Trailbreak says it's very sad watching Mercedes sabotage George Russell. Not sure I
How did
agree with that one. I think George Russell's sabotaging George Russell, isn't he?
I don't
How have
understand.
Mercedes sabotaged George? They've given him a very good race car. He won the sprint with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, yes, George, please advise. I don't think, I mean, what you're saying is, I guess, bringing him in that early is the sabotage move. But as you say, that was to try and for track position. Is that what's
Yeah.
happened? Oscar's come in just to cover George, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's lost out. He's behind him.
Yeah.
But
And
but the interesting thing is why he's gone hard. What did Oscar start on softs on the first race?
no, he started on mediums.
So he's covered the two tires to the end. So he's going to go to the end on these hards. So
Hmm.
that's all he's done. It's just a covering manoeuvre that hasn't worked. It did look like he had quite a slow stop. So you could say that Mercedes have, they've gained a position from that early stop for George.
Yeah, in the short term, I just, all this business of covering all the time, to me, it becomes too much of an obsession, and then the bigger view goes out the window quite often, in my opinion. But that's just me. But it's when
Yeah,
the strategy teams love all that, don't they? Calculating if the undercut's going to work or not. It's how they justify their existence.
yeah, but the fact is he was just too far behind Lando and Kimi to have a chance of getting back up there, unfortunately. So his race was with Oscar.
Yeah, but
And
there are other factors, aren't there? If you take Oscar, the fact is he's an tough Australian race driver who can get in a groove and maybe do things that others can't at certain stages of the race, and he's on hard tires. And I just think, they brought him in just at the moment when Oscar Piastri might have gone to a different level. I'm not saying he could have won the race at all, but I just think, it's
sorry,
all reduced to, oh well, this mathematically is the best thing to do. Oh no, it hasn't worked out, has it? Now he's stuck.
yeah. Oh no, I was talking about George and his stopping strategy.
Mm,
I don't think that they've done the right thing at McLaren because George already had the position by doing that undercut, and
yeah,
all that McLaren have done have guaranteed the finishing position behind George. So
not good, not good.
they should not have, if they didn't have the chance to cover, they should have just left Oscar out to see how the hard went on. So that is a strange call.
Kimmy's
Sorry,
just
I was
Yeah,
looking
no, no,
at it
I've
from
got,
the other
and
point of
I'm
view.
sorry because I was listening to something else. I should have been more attentive. Kimmy's just said something feels horrible. I don't know whether maybe crosswind. No, they're bringing him in straight away, so the handling's gone. He's lost the grip on the mediums after 22 laps, and he's in now.
Yeah,
So,
so presumably he'll
and
get.
Lando comes in as well.
Yeah,
Good stop by Mercedes. Good stop by McLaren too. 3.6, 3.1.
Yeah.
Brake magic
And
on for Mercedes.
there's Charles as well.
Yeah.
Good stop by Ferrari. So the cars on softer tyres had no option but to stop when Kimi on the medium tyres stops, because they're only going to be slower, likely, afterwards. So, yeah.
Nonetheless, Lewis Hamilton now leading the Dutch Grand Prix,
Yeah.
admittedly out of sync, but let's hear it for Lewis. He's driven pretty well this weekend, pretty dodgy qualifying for the sprint, but did well qualifying for the race. And in terms of a Lewis weekend, it's a bit disappointing, but on the other hand, he hasn't been far behind Charles, and indeed sometimes been ahead of Charles, and
Yeah.
really good qualifying lap when it was spitting yesterday as
That
well.
was a
Right at the
fantastic
end.
lap. I mean,
Yeah.
I think
He
we
and
talked
Liam
about,
Lawson did a really good job at the end.
yeah, we
Speaking of
talked
which,
about,
where is Liam? Liam's ninth behind, I'm just about to choke here, behind Fernando Alonso. Where did he come from? He's
I
on
think,
softs and he's running eighth
yeah, yeah, good
behind
answer.
Alex Albon.
Yeah. Yeah, so Liam stopped
Yeah.
from his softs onto mediums, and I see that's what I thought would be a good strategy to do, because I'm sure that is doable from this point. Whereas the leading cars have gone quite conservatively onto hard tyres.
Mm.
But why wouldn't you go conservative if you've already got the track position by some margin?
Yeah.
That's the situation. I am interested to see if Lewis stops and puts mediums on.
Be nice if he did, wouldn't it? I'm going to switch to
I think
Lewis's
he
audio
should give
actually.
that a go.
Mm. Yeah, let's see what they do.
And
with
we've
Lewis.
seen Charles go from soft to medium, so I'm sure that's what Lewis will do as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, if you're Mercedes, if you're Kimi Antonelli, you'd run hard, wouldn't you? But for everybody else, there's no reason really not to go to medium. And that Oscar Piastri call was bizarre.
yes, I would have to agree with that. The McLaren do make some strange calls, and I don't understand why they do that.
Well, you're not there anymore, Mark. I suppose that's one of the reasons.
Well, it was, what are we talking about, 16 years ago since I was at
Yeah,
McLaren.
but you know, I'm talking about good engineers, feet on the ground, not listening to strategy departments.
Yeah, unfortunately, in current Formula One, the options for race engineers have become severely limited in terms of their influence on decision making.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that the realities are that teams have tyre departments these days, but there is so little running done on track at a race weekend, particularly a sprint weekend, that the amount of learning that you really get, the amount of knowledge you actually have, is not what some people would like to think they have, and it makes it a bit tricky. So you have a department who kind of have to justify their existence, but because they're there, with very limited data to work on, and they don't have the experience of trackside, and so sometimes bad calls get made.
Yeah, they just asked Lewis what his tires were like, and he said they're fine.
Yeah, good.
That's good. Yeah.
So what he needs to do is basically run as fast as he can on these softs, and just do an optimal race. Which, given that there's 72 laps, if he can get to lap 30, 32 before he stops, and if he's still going at a good pace at that point, then he's going to stop, put his ideally mediums on, and have a much shorter stint than the others.
Well,
it could put him in a strong position.
Right now, he's a second and a half lap slower than Kimi.
Is he?
Yeah. So
great.
I think it's going to be pretty soon.
It's going to come down to his pace compared to Charles.
Charles has just done a 15.9 on the new mediums, and he previous to that done a 15.7, fastest lap of the race. Lewis is doing 17s. I think he had a bit of a moment. Let's call it a 17.0.
Yeah, okay, but in that case, his pace just isn't good enough. It's not going to work.
No, I mean, Lewis said, yeah, they're bringing him in now. As we said, there's no way.
But the gap to Liam is huge, though, isn't it? So Really, it's a trade-off between how long he can go, how much longer he can go on these tyres to shorten his final stint, and that gap.
Looks like Lewis didn't hear the call to box and had to shout at him just before he was going to start the lap, and he had to brake really hard and come in.
Okay.
Eddie Moretti just joined from LA. Just started the stream.
Oh, he's
way
gone
out.
hard.
I'm
Lewis has gone
catching up.
hard.
That's boring, isn't it?
I'm surprised at that.
Eddie says he couldn't miss listening to Peter and Mark Slade live. Well, that's very kind of you, Eddie. I hate to think what time it is in LA. It's probably not too bad, actually. But just in case you haven't heard, Max Verstappen went off on the opening lap in conditions that should have been perfect for him. He's on a new set of soft tires and he lost it on a slightly damp track, hit a curb on the inside, cross-weighted the car in effect and hit the ball hard on the outside. So that stopped the race. Max out of the race on lap 1. Huge disappointment for the crowds. I'm sure the F1 TV cameras will not be showing any grandstand pictures. And now we have a motor race though, because Kimi Antonelli made a beautiful start at the restart and has been leading from lap 1. Lando Norris behind him. They're both on hard tires now, but Kimi started on mediums, Lando's softs. Couldn't parlay the softs into any sort of lead, and Kimi Antonelli just driving beautifully, taking up where he left off really before the August break, which is extraordinary given, in theory, the pressure that's on him and his relative inexperience. So there you go. That's it in a nutshell. Lando is cruising around behind him on the same age hard tires. George Russell's also on hards, a little bit older. He stopped earlier. And Oscar Piastri, P4 in the other McLaren. Ferraris are now mixed. Charles on mediums, Lewis is on hards. Probably the right way to go. Split them up. And Liam Lawson, P7, did a very good job. And at the moment, Fernando Alonso is yet to stop, still on a set of softs, is 8th in the Aston Martin Honda, which is staggering. Carlos Sainz, just as staggering really, is 9th. He hasn't stopped either in the Williams. And Nico Hulkenberg, 10th at the final point running position, P10 in the Audi. He stopped 7 laps ago and is on softs, new softs there. Interesting situation for him, Mark.
Yeah, and he's just passed. Has he just passed Lindblad?
Liam Lawson, I think, yeah, who's hasn't stopped yet on the old medium.
Lindblad just passed Gasly, and I think Nico's passed Lindblad.
Yeah,
and Carlos Carlos hasn't stopped yet. Alonso hasn't stopped yet. So if Nico hasn't stopped yet, sorry, I'm not quite sure whether he has.
No,
or
Nico
not.
has stopped. He stopped. Well,
he's
7 laps ago.
He's running effectively 8th on track then.
Yeah, because he's got Alonso and Sainz who are both going to stop.
Yeah. So Nico's done a fantastic job to work his way.
He's done a very good job. Lindblad behind him, he's just passed 21 laps on the medium tire. He's going to be stopping very soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, good job by Nico. Excellent.
Yeah, honestly, he's a fantastic driver. He should really have been in one of the quicker cars. I know he had. I believe that he had a contract signed to drive for Mercedes until Lewis decided he wanted to drive for Mercedes. And then I believe Nico actually had a contract to drive for Ferrari until they changed their minds and put Kimi in the car in 2014. So he's had close calls that haven't come to fruition. And it's just a real shame. He was also in contention for the second Red Bull seat when they were considering him and Sergio Perez. And when Perez won that race in Bahrain, they gave it to Perez. And again, another opportunity slipped out of Nico's fingers. Such a shame.
Yeah. I'm reading this a little bit late from Extreme BHP. Would it make sense for Lewis to try and stay out and wait for a potential safety car? Kimi is catching him though. Obviously that didn't happen, but if a safety car happened now, Mark,
yeah,
we're looking at Alonso. Who would benefit from that, do you think?
It's Fernando Alonso and
Carlos Sainz.
The only two that haven't stopped now.
And Arvid Lindblad, you could argue.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, it was just unfortunate how poor Lewis's pace was on those tyres. and that's why they brought him in, because he was just going to end up dropping further and further back if he'd stayed out.
Yeah, and it
But
kind
this,
of sums up Lewis 2026, doesn't it? Because they said, "What are the tires like, Lewis?" Or he said proactively, "Tires feel good," and he was really upbeat.
yeah,
But then he said, "How are my lap times?" And in response, they said, "Box, box, box."
yeah,
And
yeah,
that kind of sums it up, isn't it?
yeah.
Massive will and desire and momentum, but you know,
So if McLaren had left Oscar out on his
oof,
hards, what would be the situation? You know, he would be the one hoping to pick up from a safety car.
yeah.
And what would the situation be now? I mean, I don't know what his pace was when George stopped, but that's the big question: is why did McLaren stop Oscar?
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree,
like,
and as I say, I actually think it's more short-sightedness of desperation of wanting to cover George and
but
not
they
having
weren't
the
going to.
longer view.
They'd already lost that battle,
Yeah, exactly.
and these are the decisions that should be. I mean, we used to go into races, and this is the sort of thing you have in mind. You say, if you're behind a car that stops early, there is no point covering that car. You're behind. Yeah, sorry, if you're ahead, but not ahead by enough, and that car behind stops, you've already lost that place. You should keep going, and then try and retake that place with the tire advantage later on. But it's a bizarre. It's
Here's a good
bizarre.
question from Eddie Moretti, Mark. Any clue how Piastri got such a great launch at the restart on hard tires?
We did a good job of heating them up and preparing them, because the fact is that if you get the tires hot enough, and you make the best start you can on those tires, there's a decent chance that everyone else will make not quite as good a start on their softer tires, and it sort of balances things out. It's a gamble, but you can make a good start on a harder tire. I mean, if everyone makes the same start, if everyone does as good a job, there's no doubt the softer tires will give you a better launch. But often drivers don't quite hit it, and if you're on hard tires and you make the near perfect start, you're going to be in a strong position.
Mm, yeah, good job. Good job by Oscar. It's such a shame they brought him in when they did. Ridiculous. What's the point
I
of putting him on hards and then bringing him in that early?
I don't know. it's a
I
it's a
mean,
weird one.
and when I say things like that, not to you, but when I say it to myself, I think, well, I'm very stupid, because the guys at McLaren must be unbelievably intelligent, and all the data they have and the
But
simulations in the
the thing
strategy
is,
department, they know what they're doing. How can I be so stupid? But all I can look is the simplicity of it all, that he's on
yeah,
hards, leave him out there, see what
well,
happens.
he's now under pressure from Charles. So
Oof.
rather than moving forwards, it looks like he's moving backwards.
And and they did the strategy department take into account that this is an important race for Oscar, because he's kind of there with Lando, and he's very good when he's in a race situation of getting into a rhythm. And if he's got hard tires, it doesn't matter if he punishes them too hard. But as we speak, Charles all over him, isn't he? He's going to get him
Yeah,
the next
well,
lap,
it
and
does
it's
look like he
so
could
sad,
lose that place. And
so
in fact,
ridiculous. What are they thinking?
Lewis is motoring on his fresh hards now, isn't he? Set
Here's a
fast.
question. Yeah, here's a question for you, Mark. Roberto Garaton. Is Alonso's performance showing the real pace of that updated Aston, or just Alonso's magic? Or is it Alonso just being out there, haven't made a pit stop yet?
Well, it's mainly that he hasn't made the pit stop yet, but it's also showing how good a job he did of managing his tyres.
Mm.
Although the gaps are, significant. I mean, we've got Liam 18 seconds behind Lewis, and then Fernando another 18 seconds behind Liam. So, those are some pretty significant gaps out there now.
Yeah, but in fairness to Fernando, let's look at this. He's just done an 18.9. Fastest lap of the day is 18.5. Arvin Lindblad, who's admittedly he's on mediums and he's got a few more miles. No, about the same mileage. 18.7, 18.4. So he's not that far away mid
Mm.
race from Arvid Lindblad's times in the
Yeah,
Aston Martin Honda.
yeah. No,
Okay, on different tires, admittedly, he's on the soft, and they've probably gone off a bit more than the medium, but it's not bad, is it? Bortoletto's last lap 19.1, Fernando's last lap 18.9. Maybe they're there. Maybe they're up there with Audi and Racing Bulls now.
I I think on race pace, with their chassis upgrades, they are in a lot stronger position. I don't know what went on in qualifying. It seemed pretty strange. There is no doubt he should have qualified. He should have got into Q2.
Yeah.
So I think something was wrong. Something was messed up.
Yeah.
and his pace was better than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. The fact is, he's going to stop now. He's going to, sadly, he's going to drop. Where's he going to end up? He's going to end up pretty far back, isn't he? Unfortunately,
Yeah.
he's going to be somewhere
I
down
mean,
with Pinto when he stops.
yeah. And meanwhile, Lance Stroll is doing 18.7, same times as Ocon in front of him.
Mm.
Um, GP2 Engine says, hi, Peter, Mark. Did you notice the difference between Charles and Oscar on the entry to that long left-hander? Oscar's way wider entry. I did. And that's something we'll talk about with the live streams this week. But Oscar is still nowhere near where he was, in my opinion, when he first joined McLaren. Here's Charles going around the outside at turn 1 of Oscar. Doesn't quite pull it off, but it's good motor racing. F1 will love that. Oh, he's got the inside run acceleration, but he's going to be on the outside going into the corner. Is Oscar going to go down the inside
No,
Lando
he's got it.
style? No, he's lost it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
No, it's not going to work. Has a bit of a jink. Bit of opposite
Oh,
block coming out of the corner. Wow.
here comes Lewis.
Yep. And there's Lewis. So, yeah, Oscar's still taking very wide lines. Mind you, you're comparing him with Charles, is one of the best 3 short corner drivers in Formula One. So, or 4 actually. Let's put Lewis in there. Still got a toe or two over the white line in Lewis's case, but there he is all over Oscar as well. Brilliant. What's Lewis thinking now? Is he thinking hard tire? I can beat Charles here.
Oh, I think he is, because he's got a decent lap difference, hasn't he, to Charles?
Yeah.
So potentially, he should have more performance. So yeah, Lewis is.
Yeah, he's got 4 laps on Charles in terms of the tire life.
Yeah.
So Lewis will be looking to a good P4 if he can do it. That'll be a great result for him. Looks like a bit of rain again, or was it stuff just coming up from Oscar's car on Lewis's camera lens? But there's a.
I think it's the latter, because
probably, yeah.
I'm going to go back and look at the forecast, but I still don't think there's any real likelihood of rain. But stand by on that.
Lovely pass by Lewis. Oscar. I mean, if anybody should be complaining about strategy, it would be Oscar Piastri and his team, I would have thought.
But why is his pace so poor now?
Well, we know what Oscar's capable of when he thinks things have gone downhill. Just don't talk to me, mate. You know.
Yeah, true.
Don't you think he's thinking, what was this all about? Why did they bring me in? I could have stayed out there.
Possible.
And he gets deflated quite quickly. Hansi too has donated to American Red Cross. Thank you very, very much, Hansi. Really appreciate that. Anybody that would like to donate to, because this live stream is being held in aid of charity, I think that's the right way to phrase it, which is for the victims of those who've suffered from the earthquakes in Colombia recently. And we've got a donate tab on the chat box for you to use if you would like to. The money is all going to the Colombia earthquake relief, which is administered by US Red Cross. So you know it's all genuine stuff, and it's all part of the YouTube package as well. Really good job by Google to be able to do that. So Fernando re-emerges from his pit stop onto hard tires. Looks like in P13 amongst Albon, Lindblad, and Lindblad's got to stop. So it'd be interesting to see how he compares with the Williams. I mean, he should be able to blow the Williams away, I would have thought, and then maybe somewhere near Pierre Gasly. We'll see. But there's definitely the first signs of life at Aston Martin Honda we've had all year, and good to see.
Yeah, I must have looked at those gaps wrong earlier. I thought he was going to come out much further down. So yeah, that's worked pretty well for him, hasn't it? And he has got the tire advantage over the cars ahead now. But the really outstanding one is Nico. Look up at P8. Okay, what is he? He's 7 seconds behind Liam. Is that correct?
Yeah.
No, he's more. Sorry, no, it's more than that. He's 25 seconds behind, isn't he?
Wayne Jardine says, unfortunately, duty calls, and I have to go today. It's a shame, Wayne. Was the first time I tuned in with Mark and Peter today. Wonderful to hear your two's opinion and conversation. I will definitely be joining next time. Thank you very much indeed, Wayne. Whatever you got to do. Sorry you have to leave us. Sorry you have to work on a Sunday even, but nonetheless, great to have you on board. Thank you very much for your kind words. And thank you, Mark, for joining us as well. Looks like, Mark, they all assume you're going to be joining us for all of these live race chats. So I haven't actually spoken to Mark about that yet, but anyway, I'm sure he won't be available for all of them. But when he is available and he's happy to do it, I'll definitely be asking him, that's for sure. Right, let's have a look. Rivulen says double whammy for Oscar there. Spent his energy fighting Leclerc and then got eaten by Lewis. Oscar must be fuming. I think he is.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think
I,
he is. And I'm more than fuming. I think he's despondent, to be honest. I really do. You know, with Lando up there in P2, keeping Kimi relatively honest, it's, you know, it's not good enough for him to be blown away by the Ferraris like that. GP2 says, what a wonderful race by Charles. I just hope he doesn't do one of those Charles mistakes towards the end. Yeah, I think he'll be all right. Charles tends to confine his mistakes to practice, maybe qualifying. He does make mistakes in the race, no doubt about that. But, you know, let's hope he's got it all right. Ferraris are rapid, says user. Yep, they are.
I must say, I don't think George is out of the woods with Charles and Lewis at the moment.
What are the gaps there?
Charles is reeling him in slowly.
Yeah, I mean, George is doing 16.9s last lap. Charles 16.6, Lewis 15.9, having set fastest race lap 15.5. So yeah, absolutely. That's boiling up nicely, isn't it? Fi says what McLaren did to Piastri is Ferrari level of plan C strategy. Simon May says Piastri's stop was 5.4 versus 2.5 to 3 seconds for all the others around him. Yep,
Yeah.
I agree. But then again, he shouldn't have been coming in then anyway, I don't think. Eddie says, wow, Norris lost some time, but is closing in on Antonelli with no problem. 16.4 last lap, 16.3 Lando Norris. At this stage of the race, you've got to assume Kimi's just driving to win at the slowest possible speed, isn't he, Mark?
Absolutely. He's just managing his tyres, managing his energy. Yeah, he's just got it all under control, I would say. We'll see if he has to wind it up and Lando continues to get closer, then it changes. I mean, he's right on the cusp of getting the overtake mode now. So I'd say that Kimi's starting to get a little bit uncomfortable about this.
Lando, yeah, I think it's time to switch to Bono and just see what's going on, I think.
Yeah.
See whether there's any.
Lando definitely has the bit between his teeth and he's smelling an opportunity. I mean, this is kind of a role opposite way around to how it was in the sprint when Lando killed his tyres and was dropping back. He seems to have learned, and being on the harder tyre, maybe he's got it together.
Yeah. I just had a Freudian slip, and instead of pressing Antonelli, I pressed Verstappen for the audio. And guess what? It was just dead silent. Isn't that sad? Isn't that terrible? Sums up the day in many ways.
Charles is right with George now as well, and Lewis is catching Charles. So this is Mercedes are starting to look a bit shaky.
So, what would you be doing now? Would you be thinking of you'd be hoping for a safety car, wouldn't you?
If you were Kimi,
yeah,
probably, yeah.
Trailbreak says, Peter, a dear friend of mine, is returning to New York from her summer holidays in Murcia, España, which is where we're based. Isn't that nice? Well, I hope she had a good time. I say if she, it may have been a he. Yusuf Mohammed says, Peter, do you and Mark ever miss traveling weekend to weekend to the Formula One races? I'll let you handle that one, Mark.
I don't miss the travel, I have to say. I've had enough of that, and I know what the food and stuff is like in all these places. The only thing I miss is actually being in the garage with the mechanics and working with the drivers and sending the car out in the sessions. That was always exciting and always would be. But the travel itself just gets too much, and with the number of races they do these days and the short times between the events, combined with they're
bringing Kimi in. There you go. Kimi's coming in.
Wow. I'm amazed. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe these tyres are being given a harder time than I thought. But that's pretty extraordinary. I really thought that it would be a no-brainer to get to the end.
It'll be extraordinary if McLaren can run to the end, that's for sure. But let's wait and see. Well. Let's wait and see what happens now.
Yeah.
I mean, in view of the way the sprint was, it is extraordinary. I agree. So
Yeah.
Kimi comes out behind Bortoletto. Sorry, Kimi comes out
Pico.
behind, he's in P4 behind the two Ferraris. Wow.
That's quite strange. It's not what I expected. Okay, it just shows that what I was thinking
But he was
isn't.
losing a lot of time, wasn't he?
He was losing a
They
lot
had
of
no
time.
option.
Yeah. Well, they did have an option, which was just to leave him out there and accept, a second place potentially if it was that bad. But yeah, I'm really gobsmacked. Really gobsmacked.
Well,
So
let's
if
just see
Lando
what.
can
Look
keep his,
at Lewis on Charles now as well.
oh, he's right on him.
Yeah, beautiful.
It does seem that the hard tire. It just seems that the difference between the tires is actually relatively small. But what's surprising is that it seems that the medium, and the hard are giving up almost as quickly as the soft did, where which is not what I was expecting at all. But there you go.
Lewis just got on the radio basically to say tell Charles to move over, but I'm not
Well,
sure
they
he'll
they
be
do
doing
need
this
to do
close.
that because
Well, they do,
he's
but
clearly quicker,
yeah,
and if they want to attack the cars ahead, they need to let Lewis through and get on with it.
yeah.
But it's this is where teams tend to stumble.
Well,
They're
yeah,
keen on
Ferrari
doing it.
particularly,
Well, yeah,
and
but all
McLaren
the
also have stumbled last year a lot, didn't they?
yeah, it's a strange thing. I've never understood it, but when you've got one driver who's clearly quicker than another, it should be an instantaneous no-brainer. Because this period of Lewis being quicker than Charles, the more time he spends stuck behind Charles, the slower he's getting. So it's a mistake. He should be through straight away.
Well, Charles messaged there, but they didn't bring it up on screen, so I'm going to have to go on to Charles and then rewind and listen to what he said because that was obviously very significant.
Yeah, I mean he's not going to want to let him through,
No.
understandably. But from a team point of view, it's a no-brainer. And
Oh,
they're
okay. I
already
think it was a box. No, wasn't.
no. No, he's going to do everything to stop Lewis coming past, which as a racing driver is what he should do. But when it comes to the team, they should be unequivocal. This is all hurting Lewis. This is all hurting Lewis.
Well, guess what that radio transmission was? It was nothing. And then Charles said, hello. And then the engineer said, oh, yeah, I'm coming back to you. Now they say they want a box. Took a long time to make their mind up.
Yeah. So there's a Mercedes ahead of Charles, but on the timing screen it shows Kimi behind Lewis. What's going on there? I'm confused by what I'm seeing on the track. Oh, it's not a Mercedes, it's an Aston Martin.
Yeah.
There we go. Similar colours.
There you go.
There we go. Letting them through. So is Charles going to stop now?
Yes, they've just said box.
And then is Lewis going to try and do a one-stop to go to the end?
Yes. Knowing Lewis, I would say for sure.
There goes Charles.
And if he doesn't make it, he'll blame Ferrari for letting him sit too far behind Charles and ruin his tyres.
Well, he's got a point.
Yeah.
No, he should have been through. That was silly by Ferrari. They've hurt Lewis, and even if they knew that they were going to stop Charles, so what was the point of that? Ooh, that was tight. Who's that?
Ronnie wonders if they put Oscar on the wrong tyres, mediums would have been better. I don't think they
Well,
should have stopped him at all. That's my view, but anyway.
Well, this is the interesting thing. Since it looks like the hards aren't as durable as I fully expected them to be, maybe they put him on the right tyres. But then it seems that the hard tyre is just a slower version of the medium and the soft. So in that it's not more durable, but it's just slower. So you have to say, yeah, they should have been putting softer tyres on the cars.
Yep. GP2 says again, sorry for my repeated questions. Don't apologize at all. We love it. More the better. I've been following your channel for about 3 years. Never had a chance to ask a question during the normal live streams. Glad you decided to do these watch alongs. Great. Well, in theory, it's not a watch along, which I'm not sure are sanctioned by the F1 fraternity, but I call them live race chats. about the same thing anyway, isn't it?
Oh,
Ronnie says, really enjoyed both your insight. Yeah, here we go. McLaren responding.
but
They're
it's Oscar.
putting Oscar on softs now. Oh, well. They
It's
must know what they're doing.
well,
Dutch bias, Peter. Incongruent says, maybe. I don't know. I'm Max Verstappen. I think it's a very good racing driver. Does that make me biased towards the Dutch? I don't think so.
I think we.
Lewis Lando wants the win. Bad. Yep, he does. Merck's pitting. Yeah, I'm just catching up with the messages actually.
It seems unlikely that the tyres on Lewis's and Lando's cars will go to the end, given that there's another 28 laps to go.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised by this, but there you go.
Yeah.
Bono,
Well.
the grip, says Kimmy.
Kimmy's just said, Bono, I have no grip.
Yeah. So
on
the
the
hard
new
tyre is
ones.
just not working.
So who's going to win this Grand Prix then? Who's on mediums? Liam Lawson. Well,
it's fascinating, isn't it?
it is
Really
fascinating. And this is a function also of the sprint weekend, isn't it? Because nobody did any proper running to know whether or not the hard tyre was going to work.
well. The only one who ran the hard was Max, and he's not in it
Yeah.
anymore.
That's probably why I had so many mediums and softs in the garage, because he knew how rubbish the hard was going to be.
Quite possibly, I mean, or accidentally, but either way. But it does seem that the hard is just not performing in the way people expected.
No.
They're all having to bail out of it much earlier than expected. I mean, here we have Oscar doing a 3-stop race, and he's now running 6th, having just passed Liam.
Yep. So Lando on his hards, 16.5 last lap. He's done a 15.8 best, 16.5 right now. Not too bad.
Not bad.
Kimmy is doing low 16s on his new hards. Question is, will they fall off the cliff on the McLarens at some point, those hards, as they obviously did with Kimmy?
Yeah. I mean, Lewis is going well, isn't he? He's closing very slightly on Lando.
Yeah,
So
what's the gap there?
10.9 I've got. Just came down from 11.1. So,
yeah, well,
so Lewis is going well.
Yep. Fastest lap to George Russell, who's just gone to another new set of hards. 15.3. How far is he behind Kimmy now?
9.3. It's an interesting situation. But Kimmy's on fresh hards and isn't really closing on Lewis very much at the moment.
No, he's saying, Bono, there's no grip.
Yeah. George is catching Kimmy very slightly.
So what's Bono going to do about that, I wonder?
There's not an awful lot he can do right now.
I'm on board with Kimmy, and he's just super neat, doing what he does, just only accelerating when the car's more or less straight. Oh, they're bringing Lando in now. Okay.
Right.
So this will be interesting, won't it? Because Kimmy hasn't been that quick since he's been out. Lando could come out in front.
I think it's just saying that my expectations were completely wrong.
Well, no, not really. I mean, the hard is in play. It's just a question of how it's gone off so much.
And they put hards back onto.
It's going to be
Lando.
close. It's going to be close. It's going to be close. It's going to be close.
Kimmy's got it.
Yeah. But he's got it.
Yeah.
In a Merc that isn't that good at the moment in terms of grip and balance. Charles Leclerc just sets fastest lap on his new hards, 14.9. So there's a problem for George Russell.
Oh, well, this is great because it's suddenly a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, do we have any situations now where there is just a rogue bad set of tires, regardless of what compound it is, Mark? Or are we well over that stage now?
I don't think so. I don't remember that happening for years. The quality control aspect has been nailed for quite a long time now. So yeah, I mean, it used to be you get the driver occasionally when he'd had a bad race complaining he had a bad set of tires, but it was normally just the driver whinging, to be honest. And I don't remember thinking that we put a bad set of tires on the car for a very long time.
So Lewis 16.3 on his 23 lap old hards. Kimi Antonelli 15.9. How far
Yeah,
behind is he, Mark?
only 2.5 seconds. So
Yeah, okay.
Lewis is going to have to stop. His pace isn't good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating. It's really, really not what I was expecting at all.
Lewis wants a safety car big time right now.
Of course he does. Yeah. But even with that, it would put him behind both Kimi and Lando, I
I
think.
mean, one
So,
of the Cadillacs is still running, and both of them are still running. So there's lots of opportunity for their brakes to catch on fire or something. That would bring out a
I
safety
think that would
car.
have happened by now if it was going to happen. It normally happens pretty quickly.
How hard is Zandvoort on brakes relative to other tracks, say Hungary?
It isn't terrible. Um,
No.
there's not a huge number of breakings, and there's normally enough time between corners. I'd say it's a bit, maybe it's a bit worse than the average, but it's not one of the toughest ones.
Eddie Moretti suggests maybe when the cars are now a bit lighter with fuel load, that it's going to be better for the hard tires.
Well, it'd be better for any tire. As the load comes off, it does make it easier. But given how quickly they've gone off, it is quite strange. What I'm wondering is if it is it the low temperature. Are they just losing temperature with use, and that's what's causing the problem? Because it's not what I expected at all, as I keep saying.
Mm. Well, I'm not sure Pirelli knew either, did they?
I don't
There's not
know.
enough.
Doesn't
Mm.
seem so because they were predicting a reasonably comfortable one stop. Nico's just.
If anybody heard what they just said to Lewis or vice versa, can you let me know, because I'm listening to Kimi and they didn't put the graphic up, which is always annoying.
Yeah. Nico's just made a stop and he's retained his position.
Oh,
So
that's good, isn't it? Good for Nico.
yeah,
Learn, Teach, Learn says, in terms of who could bring out a safety car, he's saying we should remember that Sonoda and Colapinto are both still running. So add that to the Cadillacs, there's half a chance, I suppose, isn't it?
well, the great thing is Yuki in his race
Yeah.
is on for a point at the moment.
Good on him. Yeah,
Although
he
he's
is, isn't he?
got Gasly just behind, but if anything, it looks like he's pulling away from him.
And he's
So
on the soft tire. He went to the
yeah,
soft like Piastri. His tire's
well,
about the same age as Piastri's. And 15.9, and Yuki did a 16.9. That's about right, isn't it?
it is looking like it's one of those tracks where the softer tires are actually working better than expected, presumably because they have the grip and you're not sliding around, as I was describing earlier. It doesn't happen very often, but it certainly can happen, and it's starting to look like that's the situation that everyone's been confused and expected the hards to be more durable. In actual fact, it's the softer tires that are better. We saw this in Barcelona, but that was for different reasons, it seemed, in that the Lewis was able to make the medium tire work better than the drivers who were on the hard tire.
Do you think it's
Even
also governed by the teams in general having more new sets of hards than they did mediums? Would that have influenced their choice?
well, remember they've only got two sets of hards for the
Mm.
race, which they've saved and used. But I think there's just a bias towards thinking that the hard is going to be a better tire. Normally, you don't even bother running the hard tire in practice if you can get away with it, if you need to save them for the race.
Shows how switched on Kimi is. Just a recommendation there that he take a wider exit and just to save the rears. And he's saying, I can't do that because I don't have any rears. So I've just got to try and keep the car absolutely as straight as possible, which he's
Yeah,
doing very well.
yeah,
Very
Lando,
well.
really
What,
strong.
what, what would you put Lewis on now then? Hards or mediums?
Uh, I
Bearing in
would,
mind there's what, 21 laps to go.
I'd be somewhat tempted to put him on softs if he had any left, but I'm guessing he doesn't. In which case, he's probably going to have to go medium.
Shame, isn't it? Shame that he doesn't have any softs left, is what I'm saying.
Well, he might have used softs
He'll
left.
have used,
That's
yeah.
that's always that's a difficult one. Um, it's always a difficult call between a newer tire or a new tire and a used tire. But I'd be somewhat tempted with the soft.
They just said to Oscar, who's lying sixth, that they think Lewis might go to the end. There might be a chance to pass him towards the end of the race. That's the assumption he's going to be P2 by then, right? Or Lewis is going to be unbelievably slow and they just won't bring him in.
I think they're assuming that Lewis will just drop back towards Oscar, but I can't see why Ferrari would do that. Ferrari have to make a decision. I mean, I think they need to bring Lewis in now, don't they? Because he's going to start losing time, keeping the two quicker cars behind him.
Yeah.
So really, I think obviously we've got Kimi's being held, having to defend against Oscar, which is slowing Kimi up as well. But they're catching Lewis so quickly that Lewis just needs to stop and get off those
I've got to
tires.
say, Lando Norris is driving a beautiful race, isn't he?
He is
really
doing a
is.
job. It's a big contrast, isn't it, to the
It's
sprint?
like he's woken up. Yeah, it's just brilliant. It's the flip side to the sprint drive.
Yeah, absolutely. He seems to have learned a lot from that event, and he's doing a much better job here.
Yeah, it's almost as if
Lewis needs
was
to stop
Lando,
now.
what were you doing? Come on, get on with it.
Yeah.
And I've always said, you know, when you've got a world championship on, you've won it now, and the monkey's off your back, and the car is good, he will drive better and better in that situation. I'm not saying he'd be brilliant in a bad car these days if he's starting 14th, but in this situation, Lando's absolutely at his best right now. He's going to win this race, I think.
Yeah, well, I think are they leaving Lewis out to try and help Charles? That's the only thing that's making sense to me now, because he's clearly struggling, isn't he?
Well, anyway, there you go. Lando's got Kimi in that thing there. I mean, just end of story. That was a beautiful pass, wasn't it? With Lewis,
and he's going to get Lewis
in Kimi
now as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know why they didn't bring Lewis in. They should have brought Lewis in, but I guess it's just to try and hold these two up for Charles' benefit. But I'm not sure that's worthwhile. So Lewis is going to come out close with, well, he's going to come out ahead of Oscar, is he? Presumably, if he does stop, which I think.
I mean, in this sense, it's actually excellent by Lando, says Benjamin Rick Donaldson. Absolutely, couldn't agree more. It's a great pass by Lando. It made up for everything that he didn't do in the sprint.
Yeah. This is a much better race than I thought it was going to be, so that's good.
It's a good race now, isn't
it? Fantastic. And I think this comes down to, as you say, that I don't think the teams understood this was going to happen either. They've thrown all the notes out and they're just going on what they're seeing in front of them, which is great.
So the message from Bono is keep your head down, Kimi. P2 still on the cards. Well, yeah, it's not what you want to hear when you've just lost the lead and you thought you're going to win the Grand Prix, does it? I mean, from Kimi's point of view, again, you got to say it, you know, blowing George away. It's not a bad day for him at the office, is it?
Yeah. Is this going to be the safety car that Lewis is looking for?
Yep. Here we go.
Virtual safety.
Come on, Lewis. And now put the softs on. That would be mega, wouldn't it?
Yeah. That's what I would, definitely, that's what I would be doing now.
Yeah.
Even if they used
Ocon stop, right?
I'd put a used set of softs on and see what he can do. He's going to come out. He shouldn't lose position. He might just lose to. Yeah, that's going to be tight.
Yeah.
This is very good. Will anyone else stop?
Kimi's taken this breather to say sorry about that, referring to losing the lead.
Yeah.
Bono said, just take a breather and reset.
Yeah. Well, I think there was certain inevitability to that anyway, wasn't there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't think he can be sorry about the way he got boxed in. He was going to get past. But the astonishing thing is how much better the McLaren is.
Since they've done their upgrades for Hungary, that car has been transformed, hasn't it? Right, Lewis, where are you going to come out? This is the interesting bit.
So we had a few question marks as to whether McLaren would continue that momentum from Hungary, but here's the answer to the question. Well. Brilliant. So Lewis now comes in, see what they put on the car.
So there's George. Was that George just going? Yeah. Who's this?
So yes, Lewis soft, mega.
Yeah.
Good.
And we've
And
got Oscar in for
Charlin,
fresh
oof,
softs as well.
yeah. And Oscar making yet another stop.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what, fourth
Everybody out
stop,
on
isn't it?
softs. And Kimi, Lando, and George all stayed out.
I think Kimi could be in trouble. Yeah,
Yep, he's vulnerable. Definitely. If the car's just feeling bad and that's just not working on the hard tire, he's in trouble, isn't he? I
yeah,
mean, all he's got to do is beat George, really. That's now, from his point of view, that's the best he can get out of this race.
yeah.
And that is a result if he does beat him. So we talked about safety car, thanks to Esteban Ocon. Lewis may be having to buy Ocon some champagne or something tonight. We'll see.
Quite unusual to have an actual straight retirement from a car these days, isn't it? So
Yeah. Benjamin Donaldson says, wow, this helps Lewis so much. Put on the softs and Hunt. Agree. Lewis accusing Ferrari of using him as a guinea pig. They put the guinea pig back in the box, says Frag Dude. Great race to finish with the softs, says Ronnie. I agree. It's all bubbling up nicely. It's a great job. Great point, Mr. Slade. The McLaren has revived its 26th season since Hungary. Absolutely. Eddie Moretti says, we've got a race now. Yeah, great move by Lando. They're just boxing in Kimi. Ah, they brought Kimi in. Look at this. Oof.
wow.
Yeah, he's going nowhere. They're going to put the softs on, so he's got something to
Yeah,
race
it's
on.
to defend against those Ferraris.
Well, to beat George as much as anything else, I think.
Yeah. It's just turned it on its head, hasn't it?
But if they didn't bring him on the first lap round, they've lost time, have they not? Have they
No,
lost?
'cause they're under the VSC,
It
so
hasn't
there's
made
no.
any difference at all.
No,
That's where my brain kind of
yeah, yeah,
fuses out.
yeah.
Okay.
So the only risk was that if the VSC had come in, but they could see what was going on the track with that car, so it was a pretty safe choice.
Oof. Kimi said, why did we box? You would imagine he would have said, thank you, wouldn't you? Because he was going nowhere on the hards. But if he's now saying, why did we box? Is that translation, actually the hards weren't too bad after all?
I just don't think he's seeing the bigger picture, to be honest, to be fair. And I think the team understood that he was starting to look pretty weak and was in trouble. So I think that's just his not understanding the situation. And I think afterwards, he'll probably realise that it was the right call.
Why didn't they bring Fernando in on the virtual safety car then?
Pass.
Is it because, as Benjamin Donaldson said, Aston Martin have actually forgotten how to race because it's so long since they've been in one?
It's possible, to be honest. You do get a bit rusty in those situations, but I wasn't really aware of what was going on back there in terms of what the gaps were and that sort of thing. So I wouldn't want to say, really. It's tricky.
Completely Lawless makes a good point. He says Russell is Norris's biggest teammate right now because he's going to try and hold off Kimi. It's a good point, isn't it? Because Russell's not going to want Kimi to pass him at all.
Yeah, I am a little surprised that Mercedes didn't bring George in as well.
Yeah, I am too. And George, this could give George the track position that he needs just to sort of revitalise his whole race. Anyway, they're racing again now. George always seems to get it right with tyres at Zandvoort, doesn't he? What were you laughing at, Mark? What are you sniggering
I was laughing at the comment that George just made. He thinks Kimi's out of the fight. It's like, I think you're going to be disappointed, George.
How did he phrase it? What did he say?
He said we should think of the team and use if we think Kimi's out of the fight. So presumably he's trying to persuade Mercedes to use Kimi to hold up the Ferraris, but he's not going to do that, is he?
Kimi, I think the response is please refer to Canadian Grand Prix, George.
I mean, you can't blame George for trying.
No, you can't. You can't blame him.
His comments are often quite amusing, aren't they? The way he looks at it. And
I mean, he's always got a career afterwards as a one of those weather forecasting guys they bring on in the middle of the news sometimes. He's very good on the weather, isn't he? Slight spots of rain, turn 9 on the apex, but not the exit.
It's not impossible that Kimi can still win this race. 13 laps.
I'm on board with Kimi. He can't see anything in front of him at the moment. What's the gap?
It's not that much. He's only got 5 seconds to George.
And
And
his
if those hard
tires.
tyres are really as bad as they seem to be, then I think it's a distinct possibility.
Yeah, I mean they're only 3 laps old, so they weren't knackered.
4.5.
Yeah,
He's closing in very quickly.
14.5, George 15.4. It's a second a lap quicker.
Yeah, he's going to get him no problem at all. In fact, he's probably going to get Lando as well.
We'll see. Yeah, Ronnie's just catching up with what we were just talking about there. Thanks, Ronnie. You know, that whole George Russell thing. Lonzo P9 kept his track position, thrashing around on his hard tyres, 24 laps. Still in the points. Pierre Gasly behind him.
Yeah, Gasly's got ahead of Yuki.
Yeah, that Alpine upgrade stuff is not bad, is it?
It's not bad, but yeah, I think it's more that Yuki's done a phenomenal job, because it was much harder for him to get in the Racing Bull than it was for Liam to switch to the Red Bull, because of the sort of the power, the energy management side of things is a total game changer for this year. So I think you have to say
good
that
point.
Yuki has
He's never
done a
driven with
really
that,
good
has he?
job.
He's done a lot of sim stuff.
Yeah.
Just thinking about Alpine, one question I didn't bring up, which is a long time ago now, I forgot, was somebody said, sorry, I can't remember your name. How does the colourful personality of Flavio Briatore compare with that of James Hunt? Interesting comparison. I can think of one area where they were completely different, but I won't go into it. And I would say James was just a very good person, kind, actually, thoughtful, intelligent, bit scruffy on occasion, and did his own thing. But I wouldn't use all of those adjectives for Flavio. As much as I like Flavio and get on with him, he used to go to my gym periodically. Kimi gaining fast on Russell. Yeah, he is. Simon, very much so. George 15.4, Kimi 14.7, and he's all over him on sectors as well. So actually, having said that, George just done a personal best sector 1, 25.4, exactly the same as Kimi, but sector 2, Kimi's all over him. Sector 3, I suspect he will be as well. So what's George going to do when Kimi is right behind him? Is he going to come up with another message, I think?
I think he's going to be told to let him through, isn't he? Would
Well,
he
that'll
be?
be an interesting
I
one.
guess
That'll
that's
be a
not.
very interesting one at this stage of the year, won't it?
I think realistically, Kimi's just a bit too far behind Lando to realistically be able to challenge him. So I suspect they'll just leave it as a straight fight between George and Kimi, which that could work very well for Lewis and Charles.
Yep. Trailbreak says, I've just read that Woody Johnson, the current owner of the New York Jets, will purchase Aston Martin. Really? In its entirety? That Lawrence Stroll is leaving the sport, taking Lance with him? Hard to believe after all this that he would do that. But I suppose if it's ridiculous money, he might. But as long as Lawrence is there, Lance will always be in the other car, and that does limit their performance, of course.
Yeah,
Yellow flag infringement for Liam. Oh no, that's a shame, isn't it?
very much.
P7, very good job all day. These yellow flag infringements, how do they measure that now? What is it? Coming off the throttle? Can you change direction? Is it a blind brow corner? Is it not? What tires are you on? How much grip do you have? I mean, it's such a ridiculous, arbitrary set of grey rules there.
And it seems to matter which driver it is as well these days.
Bono's giving Kimi lots of detail on where he's gaining on George and where he's better than George.
Yeah. Yeah. The gap between Kimi and Lewis is pretty static now.
Well, not many laps to go, only 10. They passed pretty
Yeah.
quickly at Zandvoort, so I think we've got to assume Lando's going to win this race, haven't we?
I think so. It's
Yeah,
just
that's gone, but it's gone from the point of view of from Mercedes, but great win for Lando, fabulous win for Lando. But the big battle is now, isn't it? And this could be, you know, this is an interesting thing, because if Kimi finishes second, it's another points jump over George. If George finishes second, it's not so fast, Kimi. You know, season's not over yet. This is a big thing in terms of the championship.
I'm just intrigued whether Fernando can hang on for a point for Aston Martin. I think he's going to lose.
How
He's
far
going
ahead
to
of Pierre is he?
he's going to lose to Gasly, he's only 1 second behind. But
Okay.
it's whether Yuki can
How
get
far
on.
is he ahead of? How far is Yuki behind?
5.6.
5.6. Fernando's in 17.2. Yuki,
It's
yeah, no, he could be in the points. He should beat Yuki unless the tires go off dramatically.
well, I think they might be. That's the problem. And yeah.
Right, I'm going to switch to George Russell's audio. I've got to listen to this. This is going to be fun.
Oh, Lewis is still catching Kimi. He's gained half a second.
Yeah. Yeah, was that too, isn't it? I'm not sure there's enough time though, is there, for that?
No. I don't think that's realistic, but well, it's just I think the biggest take is that the team's got it all wrong in terms of which tires to be running. In that the
I think
softer
they
tires.
have, and I think you can blame to some extent the variables of Zandvoort, but mainly the sprint format
Yeah,
in terms of taking away all that
but I'm very
testing.
glad because it's
Yeah, it's given us a better race, isn't it?
gives a
An
much better
unpredictable
race
race.
because
Yeah.
the teams have all got it wrong. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. No, that's they just overestimated the performance of the hard.
Absolutely.
Lovely overhead shots now of Kimi, the way he's driving compared with George, even just wonderful. His inputs are so supple. George looking very nice in the car too, but just looking like George.
Kimi tighter on the entry there.
Yeah. Well, he just
Speeds it up a
extends
little
the
bit.
straight into the corner and then just rotates the car when it's least going to cause the least damage and gets the straight as quickly as possible. Ah, Bottas is going to retire in the Cadillac. Stop the
Yeah.
press. Stop the press.
Right, so Kimi has overtake mode and George is on the radio. Don't
Can't
know
hear
what he
George on
said.
the radio at the moment.
It must be an old
Oh, okay.
comment they've just played then.
Mm. So you enjoying this, Mark, doing this live calling of the race?
It's what I am, but I tell you what it does is, again, it just shows how bad the information is that the spectators get on TV. Now, I know what's available to the teams in terms of information, and it just changes everything having the full suite of info in front of you. And I just think it's a bit of a sad situation that they don't give the fans the knowledge
Yes. Well, we
to
need to know
be
the
more
batteries and all
excited
that,
about
don't
it.
we? It's ridiculous. See,
It
George's
is
point on the radio now,
very fair.
George is saying, this is his
He's
angle
just
of
let
attack.
through.
It's quite
Yeah.
clever of George to come up with this one. He's saying, oh, but you're telling me that Kimi's going to beat Lando? In other words, I'm only going to let him pass if he can beat Lando. Why should I
Yeah.
let him pass now? Just for
Yeah.
second place. That's what
Yeah.
George is saying,
Yeah.
which is quite clever, really.
But actually, George is I think he's going to lose the place to Lewis. Lewis is really on it.
Okay, he's let him pass. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good thing for George to do, isn't it? Very nice. Good on you, George.
It was fair. Yeah, he knew the game was up. But yeah.
Yeah.
No, Lewis has got this. I think the real question is whether even Charles can get George before the end. There's 6 laps to go. And I'm still looking at Fernando, who's just holding on in front of Pierre Gasly.
Yeah. Amazing, isn't it? Good on Fernando.
And good on Nico. He's in the solid 8th there. I think
It's been a while for him, I think, isn't it? He's solid 8th without too many things going wrong.
Yeah.
It's what he deserves.
Absolutely.
And if Lawson's got a penalty, we haven't seen yet. If he has, I think he might even be 7th.
I have to say, I hope whatever that is, I hope it doesn't stick and that
Yeah.
the points.
Yeah, I mean, all that stupid stuff.
Oh, there's a car going slowly on the track. I guess they was just letting them through. Yeah.
Can Lewis do it? Ask Eddie Moretti.
Actually, that Williams there's something wrong with that Williams.
There's the understatement of the year. Mark.
Yeah, that Williams is in trouble.
Sums up 2026, I think.
This could be messy.
Oh no, virtual safety car again.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment it's still going round and to retire, presumably, but
they really are pathetic, Williams, aren't they? It's just an embarrassment to see where that team is. They
it's
can't
very
blame facilities or money or
no, no,
old infrastructure or anything anymore. I
no.
mean, the game's up.
It's just not happening at all, is it? It's a
No.
pretty sad state of affairs.
Interesting to see how much earlier Lewis turned in than George there, going through the quickish through turn 7. Really nice. Good on him.
This
So if
just
you were
shows how.
George now, you'd really want Lewis to beat Kimi, wouldn't you?
Yes, I mean that just showed that given the pace difference, and Lewis still wasn't able to overtake because these overtake modes just aren't any use at this track,
Yeah.
or very limited use. Last year that would have been 10-second penalty for Franco Colapinto.
No. Trailbreak says the pole sitter will not win the Dutch Grand Prix for the first time in 6 Dutch Grand Prix.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's been a good race. That's blame. You can thank the hard tyre for that.
absolutely. Well, yeah. Fernando's still hanging on in front of Pierre Gasly.
Frag Jude says, "Oh no, I think this guy from the New York Jets is only going to buy 25%.
Okay.
That's fatal, isn't it? Why would you buy a minority stake in a private company? It doesn't make any sense to me. Never has, never will.
At a time when the price is greatly inflated as well.
Oh, I get a gold pass in the Paddock Club. Oh, okay, good.
So Kimi reckons there's something wrong with his car.
Oh no, got to go back to that again now. I was listening to George. Not much going on there really, so I'll go back to Kimi. What's
There
going
goes
wrong?
Lewis. He's not pulled it off. No.
There's only 4 laps to go. Kimi Bono, there's something wrong with the car. It's like aero degradation. There's nothing on the data. So what does that mean, Mark?
It's probably wind or the
Yeah.
tyres going off a bit, but it just means that the car is clearly not behaving quite as Kimi's expecting it should be, and he's disturbed by it, and he's under a lot of stress because the car's behind, so he just feels the need to get on the radio and say something. But
This is a
yeah,
nice moment for Lewis, isn't it? His former teammate at Mercedes, oil
yeah.
flag, something going on. Lewis with the better car racing to George, hopefully, from his point of view, likely to pass him
Oh,
just
oh,
before the end.
come on, Lewis, just be sensible.
Yeah.
You've got him. Don't need to overtake where it's not going to happen.
But is he going to have enough power and all that stuff
Well, I think he's
actually to
close
get
enough.
him?
He just needs to get him under braking, doesn't he?
But what about all the harvesting and all that? Is he doing it all right?
I'm sure that will be the least of his. That's why Charles Cap. Oh my goodness, virtual safety car. No way. Oh
2
my
laps to
goodness.
go,
Oh,
3 to
what a
go.
shame. What a
Oh.
shame.
Who's put that out? For what?
There's debris on the track.
Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic.
That's such a shame. And Liam's got a 10 penalty. And the Marshals managed
Oh, well,
not
there
to.
you go. There's Aston Martin scoring their first points.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Mind you, if it's
Williams have
debris,
driven into each other.
it should only take a few seconds, right?
Wow. The Williams drove into each other.
Well, there you go. I won't say any more about Williams because it makes me too angry even to think about that team. There's a lot of debris there, actually, isn't it? Just makes me sick. Just pathetic. 2 very good racing drivers. The rest of it, the mechanics are all good. Forget about the rest of it. The management, joke. So how will McLaren's will go well at Monza too, do you think, Mark?
I don't see why not. They've got a good bounce. A bounce is important at Monza. The sort of medium speed corners. I think they will. Yeah, absolutely. But the guy was holding the flag, but they've got to do one more lap. Right, they've restarted, but it's too late. Oh no, they've got to do. They're on lap 71, aren't they? So the
2 laps.
Lewis basically got another one more chance to pass, hasn't he?
And in theory, his tyres will pick up, would have lost less than George's.
Yeah, yeah. a little bit, but George's will have. Sorry, Kimmy's will have recovered. No, it's George, isn't it? George's will have recovered some.
Hmm. Come on, Lewis. I think everybody, it's amazing that everybody wants Lewis to do this pass. Poor old George.
Yeah, I mean, may the best man win. I don't mind.
Yeah. I mean, George is,
It's just to see
I mean,
good.
it's a sad thing, isn't it? Everybody thinks, I think a lot of people think George is just quite boring compared with Lewis or even Lando.
He's a very good driver.
He
He's a
is.
very
He is. He's
thoughtful
very,
driver.
very good. He's not as good as Kimi Antonelli, though.
And now we're on the now suddenly
This is
we
the
are
lap.
on the
This is the
last lap.
Lewis lap. He's going to do it.
No,
Oof.
he's not.
He
It's
nearly had to go, didn't
flag.
he?
It's the flag.
He's not
Oh, I
going to do
see.
it.
Sorry. Yes, we're on. No,
Yeah.
George is doing
This
a
is the
very good
final
job.
lap they're on right now. Yeah.
Yeah. George has done a very good job there.
He did. He braked really late without locking
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And now Lewis is slightly flustered because he's got
and he's got Charles right behind him.
filling his mirrors.
And
what a shame.
George
Thanks
did
for
a
those
very
two
good job.
idiotic Williams drivers. Oh, shouldn't be saying that.
George did a very good job at turn 3 there.
He
Look
did.
at that. And now Lewis is defending. So yeah, it's all George has got it.
Well so done, what's George. The lead for Lando as he crosses the line over Kimi?
11 seconds.
Yeah, good job by Lando. Excellent. 2 wins like that. Fabulous.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. He was superb on that.
True world champion drive and made the best of the car. Pretty about the sprint race. But good job, Lando. Well done. Covers everybody in dust and crud. Go behind the pit wall. Always a nice moment when you win the race.
There he is. Yeah.
And here's Kimi and George.
I think George did a fantastic job of defending on that last lap, that previous lap. So
and
credit to him for that.
I just want to hear what they say, what Kimi says.
So anyway, Nico's going to be 7th and Fernando's going to get 2 points. Outstanding.
Kimi said, yeah. Kimi said, they said, well done, Kimi, good job. And George finished 3rd, good job, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, yeah, but I think our strategy was too risky. Interesting choice of words. And then Bono said, yeah, well, we need to look into it. That second set of hards was definitely an issue. We need to find out what happened there. And Kimi said, no, there's something that wasn't right. The car itself seemed to go into a degradation and it just didn't feel right. And Bono said, well, everything looked perfect on the data, but we'll have a look around the car when it stops.
Yeah, well, I think what Kimi maybe is not picking up on that is that everybody struggled more on the hard than expected.
Yeah.
So he's feeling that, but he's not appreciating that that's true for everybody as well.
Yeah.
And the teams haven't picked up on that early enough. So, for instance, when McLaren put Oscar onto a second set of hards, that was a mistake.
And everybody should have learned from that.
Yeah, really. But I mean, it's one small piece of evidence, so I think it's a tough one to have done. But that's where it was really Oscar's stint on the hard that started to show that the hard wasn't working very well.
Yeah.
Really odd. But anyway, it led to a much more interesting race than I thought it would be.
It did. I mean, good win by Lando. Very good. And we saw how good the management strategy was for McLaren in qualifying, and they've done a good job in the race with Lando. Not so good with Oscar, which will no doubt be an issue for certain side of the garage. Kimi, disappointed, I think, with that the performance of the hard tire, but did well to beat George at the end of the day. Win, lose or draw, he beat George Russell. And great drive by Lewis. Shame about the virtual safety car. Had to be happy with 4th ahead of Charles, which in itself will, it shows Lewis is still right there racing and doing well. Oscar won't be happy at all with P6. Liam Lawson, shame. I mean, he's going to lose. Has he served the penalty or not? Is that the time? They've got him P7.
I thought he was going to drop one place, but I may be wrong about that. So I thought he was
Nico,
going to swap with Nico.
yeah, it looks like he's P7, Nico 8, Fernando Alonso 9, Pierre Gasly 10. I mean, how'd you be in an Alpine getting beaten by an Aston Martin
Yeah,
Honda? What
I
happened
think
there?
that's pretty ominous.
That is ominous, isn't it? Ominous for Alpine, right?
Yeah, yeah, because they've got that upgrade that they were very happy about all through practice, apparently, and they've been beaten by an Aston. Okay, a cleverly driven, wily old fox drive from Fernando, making use of the
drive by
situation.
Fernando, but what's he doing? How far behind was Pierre in the end? I didn't see it on TV.
Not much.
That's amazing, you know. When you think Fernando's on 37 lap old hards, and Pierre's on 27 lap mediums, he should have been all over him.
He should have had that, but Fernando is outstanding. He's just unbelievable, really. I love the way Fernando goes about his business. He's a proper legend, and I'd like to see him up at the front more because he just adds so much to the whole drama when he's involved.
Bit like you, Mark Slade. You've added so much to the drama today. Thank you so much for being a part of this. It's been brilliant. In the words of Eddie Moretti, great to have you on the stream, Mark! Exclamation mark. It has been a privilege. Thank you so much for your insight. Thank you to all of you who joined us today on the live stream. Hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget, we'll be doing these live race chats, not always with Mark, but sometimes just with me, if you can grin and bear it, between now and the rest of the year, for members only. But a big thanks to everybody who's been a part of it today for your questions, comments, and especially for those who've donated towards our charity to try and raise funds for those affected in the Colombian earthquake. So thank you so much for that. Can't thank you enough, really. It's been a privilege to, to be able to just raise any money. It's been wonderful. So thanks for that. And I'll be back with a live stream pretty soon, probably Wednesday this week. I think I'm doing something with Cameron tomorrow as well, when we can dissect it even more. And actually, once I go and have lunch, we're gonna do another video tonight, just looking back after the dust has settled at what happened today as well. So looking forward to that. Big thanks to REC Watches, to TrackNinja, and of course to Jetcraft for their support of this channel, to Mark again, to all you the fans that took part in it today. Thank you so much. See you soon. Thank you.